Hello and welcome. I'm so glad you're here. It's going to be a great episode because it's the last episode of the season and we're so excited. Guess who's joining us? You know her. We adore her. It's Zara Hoffman. Woohoo! Yay, yay, yay. And with me, as always, because the world is still running in some kind of semblance of goodness, it's Tom. Tom is here. Yay!
Okay.
Hello, Sarah's mom as well.
Lori says hi. She's like, I need to go to Whole Foods to get more food for Riley. I was like, okay. So do you want me to get anything for you? I was like, no, I'm good.
Snacks. Zara, the answer is always mom, get snacks. Like
my mom has snacks in the kitchen. I was eating them before this.
Is it enough? Is it enough for you to take more home with you and she won't notice?
She'll notice, but she'll still let me take them home because they're cookies. And she'll be like, yeah, sure.
I mean, she wants to make sure you're fed. It's important. More snacks. So, today, B.A. Paskar is here. Hello, sweetie. How goes it? It's been a little while since we've seen you. Hope you're doing well. And Tom is also in the chat doing double duty. Howdy, howdy, Tom, because he knows I'd like to say it. All right. Today, we're talking about fixing things, repair, maintenance. Look, I realize to some people this may not seem like a cool, awesome, sexy episode.
What's wrong with you?
Thank you. I appreciate the validation.
While invalidating others. I'm just kidding. I'm not invalidating anyone.
No. But I mean, so Megan is here. Hello, not supposed to be here today, so I have this on mute, but wanted to, thank you, sweetie. We will see you when we see you. And hello, Carrie. How are you doing, honey? So, like, this is an episode that I enjoy, but I will have to say it is very near and dear to Tom's heart. This is one that he was like, we have to include this. And I was like, okay. So it didn't go up for debate at all, unlike some episode options.
Ooh, do tell.
Ooh,
do tell. I want to hear which ones have been debated.
Well, so one of the ones that we debated was boundaries. Boundaries are so important to life skills.
Right.
But we really were like, how do we fit all of it in one episode? And the answer was, we won't. We'll do it. We'll just do a little bit in every single episode because it's sort of like a foundational one. So it'll come up in every episode anyway, if we're doing our due diligence. And so that is one of those that we actually debated for a while. How can we do this? What could be the composition of that episode and still fit everything that we feel is most important in? And the answer was, we really can't do it in just one episode. We really need to just revisit it with all the other episodes. So that was like one of them. There were other ones that we wanted to talk about, such as romance. But it just was not as important as the subjects that we did decide. So there were a couple episodes that did not make the cut for a variety of reasons. It's true. But this one, so Tom knows that I pretty much have a minor in self-efficacy, the research of how to make people feel that they're empowered enough in their own lives already to feel that whatever problems pop up, that they are capable of coping. And that is, like, I researched this my entire college career. I have given so many presentations on this. I've done so much research about it that he knew that if he just said, but glory, self-efficacy, that yes, so he automatically got this episode on fixing things, repairing, maintaining, and when to call professional. Because it is part of that, right? Like when something breaks in your house or something is starting to fall apart, instead of throwing your hands up and go, well, I just have to live in misery now.
That's it. I'm done for. It's done for.
It's a thing. That's a real issue, and it's not like an age thing of, oh, it's just young people, or oh, it's just the elderly. No, it's everybody has a learned helplessness, often at least in one area of their life. And so instead of taking that approach to then go, oh, something is breaking or about to break, let me go research how to fix it now to see if I have what I need or if I need to call a professional or what have you. Hello, cool gamer.
Well, I think it's the learned helplessness, but I think on the others, how do I say this? No, it's still. I know what I'm trying to say. How do I say it?
You can talk around it, and we will play the taboo game.
No, it's like, it's like, okay, maybe you're on the opposite end, like financially, so like where you've been spoiled type of thing, but you are still helpless because you don't know how to do any of it yourself.
Yes.
I say just general ignorance.
Yeah.
Like you don't, and then, to me, it's kind of a triangle. There's learned helplessness, there is general ignorance, and there is executive dysfunction.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Of usually it's one of those three. Whenever you see, a cluttered house, you are seeing usually one of those three, or you're seeing a house that is not functioning normally,
or chronic illness or chronic pain. You can't have like a physical.
Yeah.
Something isn't 100%.
Oh, definitely. Like nobody enjoys living in squalor. Nobody. At least not in the back of their brain. But something's happening.
And so part of what I really wanted to get to on today's one, talking about, fixing things, is the shortcuts we use for our executive function to just figure out, is this something worth spending time on? Or is this I need to just go replace it with something else, or I need to go get a professional to handle this. This is not something for me. This is something for someone else, whether it's the trash man or the repairman.
Fair. Real quick. Hello, Spence. It's lovely to see you.
It stopped. There was this really loud beeping from outside in the street, and I was like,
I think of it as sounds of the city. Like that's
Zara. No, but it was really high pitched, and I was ready to scream bloody murder. So I was just like, I'm gonna mute myself so that A, if I do, they won't hear me. B, hopefully they can't hear the beep. It just stopped.
As you just go full New Yorker,
right? Just like, look, if you want to mute yourself and go out that window and just yell, "Shut up!" Like, you know what? We're here to support you. Just being an average New Yorker. I just see it as flavor.
Oh, I saw, totally unrelated, but I opened up Instagram today, and I think it's called New York City is the account. And it's like not, I don't think it's just the city. I think someone like literally grabbed the account on Instagram, and it was like no one, and then they just showed all these dog walkers with multiple dogs, and they and the caption is New York. Yeah, okay, here.
Oh my god, it's like a meeting of dogs.
That was the first thing I saw this morning, and I was just like, you know what? I'm okay with that being the stereotype. Like, if that were the only stereotype that we had, I would be like...
Exactly. So there is a poll in the chat for anybody who is interested. Tom has set up the poll. So the poll is, so you all know it, the biggest hole in my life. A, my bank account. B, my mouth. B, my head, or C, my head. D, where I live. These polls are...
When you say my mouth, as in like... I'm sorry. I'm like, is my brain understanding the options, or like...
Well, often people describe either, I eat so much, my mouth, or the, why can I not get it to stop talking and getting me in trouble?
Right, that's why I'm like, which
Any of the above you want.
So
They
these
only give us
polls,
4 options. I have to really condense.
polls are often suggested on Wednesday night's Twitch stream for
Right.
the chatter suggest them.
Yes.
And we then save them for today. So also there's that. So it is definitely open to interpretation, and it is not a scientific poll. It's just for us to have good times.
No, I know, but you were saying the options, and I'm like, do I know what my answer is if I don't understand what they all are?
You're just looking for the one that goes like, nope, that's me.
But like, I also, can you just explain the where I live one too? It's like you're not happy with where you're living.
I think like people often think of a hole as like a pit or like a money
This is what
pit.
drains my life.
Yeah, this is the thing I throw into and I never get back, or I never get back as much as I put into it. It's a hole. So there's no way to like benefit from the energy you put into something. Like many things we put energy in and we'll get something out. You put energy into going to school, you're going to usually learn at least some things. So you're getting some, benefit from money, energy, time you're putting into something. There are things that you don't get anything back. And, we do often talk about it as a whole that you throw in time, energy, money, resources, what have you, and you're getting nothing back, or you're not getting anything even close to appropriate back.
And for those who are looking for like a good example, there is one movie we know of that like centered on this, trying to truly, they spent 2 hours explaining this concept as a comedy, and it's called The Money Pit. I think Disney financed it.
Isn't that the one with Shelley Long?
Yes. And Tom Hanks?
Tom Hanks, maybe? Yeah, I want to say. I used to watch this a lot when I owned my own home.
When you owned your own money pit?
Yes. There was a reason it... Anyway.
1986, Tom Hanks, Shelley Long,
Yep.
Maureen Stapleton, and Alexander Goodenough. I don't know how you pronounce
He's
his
a fantastic actor. He usually plays villains in the 80s during those Cold War movies.
This was made in 86, so
yeah. But yeah,
so
like it talks about how this home is unfixable. There's always more problems, and it just drains this couple who were so happy they went in together as a team, and it just pulls them apart.
And it's a comedy.
The 80s were wild.
Oh yeah.
Woo!
Yeah. So yeah, like it definitely, that movie, I watched it kind of obsessively for a certain point. And there were so many times I would watch that movie and go, oh, I know how that character is feeling right now, but I'm feeling it about something else, not necessarily home renovation. Although I certainly was experiencing that with the home I was in at the time. You
mean when you're brushing your teeth in your raincoat?
How about when I was showering and all the birds would cluster around the roof? I had no roof, but like where the roof should have been, they would cluster and watch me shower.
This was post Katrina. The roof had been literally blown away. I had no roof
for 9 months after Katrina. Like, no, back half of the house. The back half did not have a roof. The front half had something like a roof. And the most birds I ever had cluster to watch me shower was 27. A variety of species. Crows, ravens, pigeons.
Did you have a waterproof camera?
No. This was like, what was this?
It would have been 2005, 2006.
I was like, I wanted to say 2007, but I was like, no, that's way too late. But anytime I showered,
could have gotten like a great collection.
It never occurred. I always thought I would only feel self-conscious showering in front of people, because I had experienced it at Girl Scout camp and stuff. Like, it's kind of weird to shower from strangers. But it turns out I also feel uncomfortable showering in front of birds, strange birds I don't know, who are just there to see, like, hey, did you know humans do this too?
Well, I think there's also like this anxiety, like even if you haven't seen the Hitchcock film, like when there are wild animals, regardless of how small, but especially like when there's a group of them, you're like,
yeah,
this is unnerving. I am outnumbered.
And
And
they're just watching
unprotected.
me for entertainment. Like, why? What is what I'm doing? I'm just showering like a person. What is that? And they were just like, y'all get a load of this. It was a huge variety.
Tweet. Look, the show's on.
Right? Yeah. Yes, it felt that way. Like, because there would be
Hey,
mockingbirds.
come on, you're gonna miss it.
Also, a lot of these birds are normally aggressive with each other. They all had a truce to watch me shower every week for 9 months.
Okay, yeah.
So mockingbirds are
I want
often
to use
quite
the F
aggressive.
word,
with
and then
other
I
birds.
always forget if I'm allowed to or not.
It's okay. We'll be
Okay, that's fucked up.
It was. So cardinals are often also very territorial and aggressive. They would cluster blue jays, mockingbirds, ravens, crows, pigeons, you name it. And none of them were fighting with each other while I showered. They just were like, we're all going to be good and quiet while she does this. Y'all get a load. And then they started bringing their babies. Anyway, so
The show's on.
the show is on, everybody.
No fighting while the show is on.
I mean, and they didn't poop into my shower area or anything. They were truly on best behavior. They were just fascinated. And,
okay, because I was gonna ask about that.
oh yeah. Oh, look, I put a broom by the shower just in case I needed to broom them because birds don't like brooms. I learned that from one of my childcare people. But no, they were on their best behavior because they were truly fascinated. And this went on for 9 months till they put a roof on. I was so relieved. But yeah, it turned out I feel self-conscious showering around birds that are watching me for entertainment value or curiosity, whatever. And it was truly, we have to get professionals. The tarp will not satisfy. They would try to get holes into the tarp to cover that I had put over my shower, so they could still stick their little heads in and watch, and then they'd get their little heads stuck. I did not need to deal with this. No arguing during my stories. Birds are pervs. So anyway, so we've had all sorts of strange experiences with needing to repair or fix, or even just when do you throw away? Zara, how about you?
This is bad. I probably lean toward the throwaway faster than I should, just because that's how I grew up. But there are a lot of things where I've been trying, especially as I've been like when I was living away at college and now that I'm living on my own, where it's like, there has to be a way to fix this.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll find out how to do it. And if it's something that I'm like, if I mess this up, it's not worth me having messed it up because I'm still going to have to call a professional anyway. Versus, yeah, I can do this. So, and if it falls into that category, then, I'm like, okay, then what do I need to be able to do it? Because I have a toolkit, but it's pretty, like minimal at my place. Whereas my mom, our male cousins just kept getting my mom more and more tools. And she's like, I don't use them, right? And they're like, no, this is for when we visit and you ask us to fix everything. And I would, help them, or I would just do it when they were gone. But a lot of the times it's like, I can't reach stuff. So it's like, nah, I had to help them.
Mm-hmm.
That's also how I learned a lot of things, which is why I can even be like, okay, even with the way I grew up, I have confidence that I can fix stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I have done it under the supervision of other people before.
But and one of the things though you will learn when you actually do it, the supervision of people who know how to fix things, is that the proper tools are more important than most people realize. Like it's right there with when you're doing art.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to draw or paint correctly, you need the right tools, or you can't get that look. You can't fix things if you do not have the right type of tools to fix it. Like the way it ended up becoming back in the day at Gloria's house was the way we, her ex and I would figure out how long it would take to fix something is however many hours we figured it was going to take us to fix something, that's how many days it was going to take. So if it was going to take more than 2 hours, we had to wait for an extended weekend.
Mm-hmm.
because invariably we wouldn't have some of the right tools we need or some of the right parts. This was before YouTube, would show you someone walk through and actually do all of it, so you could better see all the things you need. And so, I totally get your cousins of like, no, I'm just leaving some tools here because when you need them right then. Otherwise, there's half your day gone just getting the stuff you need.
Yes. I don't remember what I was putting together, but it might have been the desk chair I'm sitting on or something. And I have the same one at my place. But, or it might have been something else when I was putting together furniture at my place. But I needed a Phillips head screwdriver.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason it wasn't where it normally was. And I either someone was using it somewhere else in my apartment, helping me put together other stuff. And I just thought I had a second one or something, whatever. And I tried to use like, is it just called a flathead screwdriver? Or
yeah.
Okay. I was like, I never know what that one's called. I only know that the other one's called a Phillips head one. And I tried using that and like it worked a little, but like the moment they gave me the other one, I was like, done in 2 seconds. And I was like,
such a huge difference. The amount of time wasting from trying to use an inadequate tool is phenomenal. And your time and energy is so valuable. And a lot of people don't realize it. Of like, you're using up a lot of like, you're filling up the frustration bucket as well as using up real time and resources when anyone's using the wrong or inadequate tool.
Well, it's like you're spinning wheels. Like you're still like, if you're running a car and you're stuck somewhere, like you're using the gas, but it's not getting you anywhere. So,
like, I grew up, our parents were not, would you say mechanically minded? I don't know I don't know.
Yeah, they are not.
Handy.
They're definitely not handy. And yet, so they never had the right tools for any problem.
Very quickly, but after testing hundreds of items.
After testing hundreds of what? You got what?
Sorry, that was me clicking on the wrong thing because I was looking up like, I have now true proof if you want to know what the difference between the right tool and a good quality tool is versus a poor quality one. There's a YouTube channel I was just double checking on. It was Project Farm. And just seeing the same tool made by different manufacturers. And he does a decent job of home constructing ways to test stuff out. But like seeing wire snips and the amount of force difference between different manufacturers, and price is not always a real indicator either. Yeah. Of, to cut through something could be anywhere from 50 pounds of force to 180 pounds for a tool that looks almost identical.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't realize, and you're like, how come that person can just do this all the time? I tried to do it once and I'm killing myself. It's like, it may be the tool.
Yeah, it's something I've worked really hard to get through to a lot of my students of just because you're doing something that other people have said is so easy, whether we're talking about repair or even diagnostics or even just putting something together, and you're having a hard time when other people have said, oh, it's really easy. It's 1, 2, 3 and done. It still may not be you. It may be the tools you're using are making it exceptionally difficult for you.
Well, I just remember in my physics class, I might have learned it earlier, but I honestly don't remember, where, we were talking about fulcrums and the other simple machines. And it's like, yeah, it's the same thing, but depending on where you place it, it's either effective or it's not. So can you imagine what it's like if you're just using the wrong thing altogether?
And the same thing even goes for, for Phillips screwdrivers. Of if the beveling doesn't actually meet up with the corners correctly on, a Phillips screw, it's a big difference between it only takes, 10 pounds of force to screw, or, you're having to press in and we're looking more about 40 to 50 pounds of force just to keep it from camming out.
When you're trying to exert that much force, you're also going to have to go slower.
Yeah.
And if also a lot of people don't realize, it's something that I end up talking with people, technically would be predominantly women, but also anyone else with smaller hands. Tools are not designed for smaller hands unless they are specifically state they are designed for smaller hands. So what that means is smaller hands are going to actually have to exert more force in order to do the same action as the size of hands that tool's handle was designed for. So we're talking about hammers, we're talking about screwdrivers, we're talking about anything that is handheld, and that includes the electric tools, such as electric drills, that are designed to be held. Anything that's designed to be held, which guess what? Most tools people are going to use in either the construction of furniture or any device or the repair of it. There's going to be at least some elements that are designed to be used with hands. That means it's all harder. And so that's an issue for people with smaller hands in the military who are working in a division that you're issued military grade handheld tools and your hands are notably smaller. So you're having to do so much more effort and work for inadequate tools. The problem also with inadequately sized handles of tools is that means you're more at danger of injuring yourself or others or the equipment because you're exerting more force and you're having to change your body stance from what was originally designed for these handles that were designed for larger men's hands.
It's the dull knife problem all over again.
So it's something to really be aware of if you have smaller hands for whatever, no matter your gender or non-gender. I just want to make it very clear, by now, whether you have smaller hands or not. You have put on enough gloves and you've held enough hammers in your life, more than likely, that you have realized, hey, my hands are not standard man size. Man, quote unquote. So what that means is anytime you are buying tools, keep your eye out for screwdrivers, hammers, anything handheld that are designed for smaller hands. Sometimes they don't say they're designed for smaller hands, but there are visual cues to the design. So when I mean that is like electric drills, the handle will actually be slimmer and it will not be as rounded.
It'll be much more tapered.
It'll be more tapered. So, and they do not say that they were designed for smaller hands because people would buy less of them because, that means they're less powerful because they're designed for chicks, man.
Not you.
I understand. They just want to sell these lovely tools. But so they won't say they're designed for smaller hands. They just will have some visual cues. And so that's things to look for. And because you can't depend on the description for that product to cue you in that they've been designed to fit smaller hands.
And if you ever need to deal with anyone ever trying to shame about, this is just not the right size for me or something, never forget the story about the U.S. Army and the average sized flight suit. So they took measurements of everyone in the Army Air Corps because they just wanted, they needed to make a whole lot of these flight suits for a lot of people at once. And so they took all their measurements, they fed them in, they computed the average, and they made all these suits based on the average of all the people in the Air Corps. The suits literally did not fit a single person. Not a single person in the Air Corps could wear any of these because no one was that size.
It was too long for some and too short for others and too tight for some and too loose for others to be safe to be wearing around moving mechanical.
So they had to literally just get rid of and order an entire new batch.
So again, I cannot stress enough how knowing and having the right tools for you in your home, if you can afford that, is such a godsend. It's so important. And also it means that you are far less likely to have accidents when using them, you're far less likely to be injuring yourself, others, or the equipment you're working on. So it's really a safety thing as well as a comfort and a speed thing. You will be able to use them so much faster if you're not grappling to hold it.
If you're injuring yourself or any of the things, you're going to have to spend money to fix or replace that stuff too.
Yeah,
So,
and hospital
invest
visits
properly
cost
the
money.
first time around.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, truly, you can see this especially with hammers. A hammer that is the right length to your forearm, like there is actually a correct length, just like a bow staff.
Yes.
To your forearm is much easier to consistently hit the same point for you than one that is too long or too short. Like people don't realize like there's actually literally the right size and the wrong size.
Ditto for the weight of a hammer. It has to do with your own musculature. And because you don't want it to, if after 50 movements it feels too heavy, then it's obviously too heavy for you, because you need to be able to do it with ease. Because if it feels heavy, that means you're putting undue stress on all of your joints, and you're so much more likely to incur a repetitive injury. So, like, there's a lot going on with this, not to, like, make it seem like, oh, well, I don't have the right tools, so I can't fix anything. Like, no. I got started with, and this is true, a roll of duct tape, a roll of masking tape, my mother's least favorite butter knife, and her most hated mug, coffee mug. And and my nails. That was at 7 and 8 years old. That was what I was originally allowed to use to fix things when I noticed like screws being loose or something needing fixing, because she didn't want me to have real tools. And my parents noticed that I was fixing things all the time because loose drawer pulls get on my nerves, y'all. Loose doorknobs get on my nerves. Even at 7, 8 years old, little Glory was like, I can fix this. I will not feel misery and anger all the time when I touch anything or close any door and hear these dumb rattles. So there I was fixing things all over the house, and they're like, maybe we should get her own tools, because stop using your fingernails. And I'm like, why? They work so well.
You have very strong fingernails.
Yes. These are absolutely real. So, so I got my first set. They had to special order from JCPenney's a set of specialty, household screwdrivers and hammers and everything, begging me, please stop using your fingernails. And I'm like, my fingernails are so good at screwing in little screws. But anyway,
I used to do that too.
Yeah, I mean, because like it makes sense. You just slowly, like a cat. So, but there were times where we did happily, as children, let's go to Glory's toolbox and get the tools out. Eventually, I didn't like the color they were in. I think they were orange, because it was so it was JCPenney's. I think that's Craftsman tools or Snap-on. I can't remember. So that is when my father bought me my favorite color of nail polish. And I'm like, well, just paint them. It's enamel. It works. And I just want to point out to everybody,
I never thought about that.
Because nail polish is enamel. That's originally what it was actually. It was paint enamel. So I just want to point out, if anybody keeps borrowing your tools and going, oh, I thought that was mine, my friends, let me tell you.
No, bitch, it wasn't. It was mine.
You go get yourself whatever color of nail polish, even if you never wear nail polish, you go get yourself something excellent that you're like, I love this color and I will never get tired of it. And then you go at least paint the heads of all of your favorite tools, or you paint the neck of it or whatever. I promise you will get in so much less arguments, because it's like, no, my dear, that is my favorite color of frosted grape. No, they don't sell it that. Those are mine, specialty painted by moi. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Well, I would probably do that, but then also like etch a ZH somewhere, because like you're gonna tell me that in the world where so few things that are personalized with the Z.
Oh, that's where
was before I had a Dremel.
That's where like the gift every tween girl really wants, that even if they don't say it or know it, they want an engraver. They want a little engraver tool.
A lot of people don't realize a Dremel is often affordably $20 for a very nice quality Dremel. It's often what, like $10, $12 for the appropriate heads to go with them so they can do all sorts of engravings on their own. And I highly recommend, if anybody is having arguments about, no, this is mine, you took it out of my room, the answer is a Dremel. As well as, yes, your favorite nail color to paint all your stuff with, so that there's no question about, did you take this from my room? I used to have this argument all the time with my younger siblings and my mother, and sometimes my father. And you know what? These are worthless arguments. They're worthless arguments versus you could just etch or paint your stuff. Highly recommend.
And you know what? It's hard to get nail polish out of fake fur. So yeah, you paint a little Z or something on your favorite stuffed animals with nail polish. Nah, there's still a remnant of it. Even if
you know where you could put a little dab that no one ever will notice, but you know where it is, and you could always no, behold, this is my signature color. No question anymore. No arguments. Debate society is over. So just throwing that out there.
The two things every tween kid really is looking for is they either want an engraver or they want a soldering iron to go burn things with.
Soldering irons are so much fun, particularly if you give them a whole bunch of those cut pieces of wood, that are like a tree cut horizontally, so they can just engrave anything like, this is my room, go away. I burned it in wood. I burned it in wood and I put it on my door. Can you not tell? So I do recommend it for all tweens, no matter their gender or non-gender. But again, having the right tool, so they're not burning matches and trying to write on wood like I did at one point as a tween. You can get the job done with burning a whole box of matches one by one, but it would be so much better to have a soldering iron. I'm just going to throw that out there. It's also so much safer, actually, especially if you go over safety tips first. What's better when you're using soldering iron? Concrete. To do it over concrete or things that are not flammable.
And to also have next to you a cello, sponge that's, doused and soaked in water. So you can quickly, remove the heat from that soldering iron or your hand when you accidentally touch it.
So just throwing that out there, just something to think about. But I found after I had gotten my set of tools that my parents kept borrowing without asking or telling me. And
rude.
In your grandmother's little suitcase for travel.
My grandmother gave me a little, it's a little train case, I think is what it was called. And that's where I kept my tools. And everything else precious to me, like extra notebooks.
It's like a hardbacked size of a large purse.
Yeah, it was before caboodles. This is what, ladies in the 30s, 40s, and 50s used before caboodles. It had a little mirror inside and everything. But nowadays, more than likely, you're going to be working on electronics. And there are, in fact, entire toolkits with appropriately sized Phillips and flathead screwdrivers in it.
And security bits.
And tweezers that are not sensitive to electricity. So you are not likely to inadvertently electrocute yourself or anything else. And they are very affordably priced online. And we're talking $5, $6, $7.
Something like that.
So again, I just want to point out there is a appropriate tool for every job. And they are not cost prohibitive. At least for your entry level tool of that type. So just consider that. It's not like the tools have a limited shelf life. They are non-perishable. These tools,
unless you store them really badly and spill some corrosive agent on them.
I mean, what's going on that you're keeping the corrosive agents in a spillable situation?
It wasn't me. It was at my art classroom.
Did they not hear about zip top bags? Okay, so or totes. those tough or rough, whatever they like, it's, you know, it's like TUFF or RUFF totes. Look, highly recommend. They come in all sizes. Yeah, keep your chemicals together or away from your other things at the very least, like just in general, y'all. So that is definitely something we wanted to talk about. I've had so many people tell me, oh, I'm just not very good with fixing things. And it's like, why? Well, what is the problem? Oh, well, I'm always having trouble getting the Phillips head or the flathead screwdriver to work right. And it's like, did you know flathead comes in a like huge variety of sizes? And it depends on the screw or whatever you're dealing with, if you have the right flathead or Phillips head, or if it's not a Phillips head you need, but an Allen wrench instead. Oh, people goggle at me when I mention Allen wrenches.
I love Allen wrenches. I don't know why.
Allen wrenches come in a variety of sizes. They are lovely, but they also come in a variety of sizes. And I have been just genuinely shocked how, like, so many people I run into had no idea that all of these come in a real range of sizes. They are affordable to get a whole box of different heads, so you can just change them out, or even just like with Allen wrenches, I have gotten a wide selection of, like, this box contains 28 different sizes of Allen wrenches.
And also, Allen wrenches come in both, you know,
metric
SAE, which is standard
Imperial.
American, and, you know, okay, Imperial, and metric.
Mm-hmm.
They are two different size groups. That's why you usually see 2 keychains of them.
Yes. So I'm here to say that often the learned helplessness feeling around fixing things is not accurate.
Also, we have YouTube now, so you can always just go look up, see if it's something within your capacity range.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not anything if you're like, nope, that is beyond my skill level. I already know this. That's fine. But go check it out. Like, you're talking about a few minutes video, but it could tell you very quickly, is this something within your range or not? You'd be surprised how much, you can do. Even computer repair. You know, like my little booklet I made on Amazon of, like, here's what you go run through real quick that will fix 90% of Windows computer problems.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, if you know the process, it's easy enough. If you don't know, and you don't know the free tools to use or the command line tools, yes, it's impossible. Whoever could fix this, I don't know. I need professional. Here's the knowledge. It's not that complex.
Exactly.
Like, that was also how we both of us really learned how to use Photoshop. Was there's a photographer by the name of Scott Kelby, who, unlike every other writer out there, wrote his Photoshop book in the style of an auto repair manual, which is, what is it you want to do? Here's a page or 3 on how you do that with this.
With pictures of his screen and what you should be looking for in Photoshop.
Instead of here's a chapter on, you know, this section of, like, who wants to go hunt through a chapter, and the information may be spread across 3 chapters sometimes. No, where's the auto manual style?
Yeah, we really learned how to Photoshop professionally from his one book. It was a real game changer for us, because I had bought so many books and textbooks even of, here is how you Photoshop. You know, I even took university digital photography classes and bought all their textbooks, everything they said I would need, and was still absolutely at a loss on how to figure out how to do the things I wanted to do to my photos. And with his one book that at the time, in like 2007, 2008, cost $22 maybe. And this was full color gloss. It was everything I wanted to do and more. Things I didn't realize that were within my ability or skill level, which was very low skill. everything I could want to do, and even some really fun, weird, artsy stuff that I didn't realize was not complicated at all. So there's a lot to be said for finding someone's style of describing that works for you. Now with YouTube, there are pretty much, you name it, somebody on YouTube has a how to fix this. How to rehang your door. I did not know you did not need a contractor for this. It did not occur to me that 1 to 2 human beings with limited tools could actually rehang a door correctly so that it doesn't, stick, or you don't have to lift it to close it. Or I didn't realize it was very easy to do.
Yeah, let me go also grab that one, that link. It's a general contractor, and the YouTube channel is called C. Jane Drill. And she goes over the basics of everything you would do in home repair from a very simplistic way. She works with someone else who actually works at a university teaching contracting. And so between the two of them, I actually much prefer her videos to This Old House for the very easy, very simple, here's what the tool looks like.
Before we found C. Jane Drill, though, in my research, I found there is a website. It is based on a magazine called Handyman. That's right. There once upon a time roamed the land a magazine for every niche interest known to Americans. And one of them, I don't know if it's still around like as a magazine, but the website I think is at least still existing, and Google's still crawling it. Hello, Cherry Panda. And it's called, I think it's just like handyman.com or something. But so we had a situation many years ago where mice kept getting in the house, and they were all going for my yarn. And I was like feeling personally attacked. And it wasn't just mice, like field mice. No. Somebody either lost their pet Australian jumping mice, kangaroo mice, or they released them in our suburb. And these mice, these Australian kangaroo mice.
Okay, let's be honest. They probably released them.
I think they were released. And they released them near my house. Because I found out that these mice do not travel far, particularly during the rainy season. And this is when these mice came to my house. So anyway, so these mice, and it was a breeding pair, got into our house and went straight for my yarn all throughout the house. And I was like, I used to think mice were cute. Now I want to destroy them all.
Do mice breed like rabbits, or are they worse?
Or worse.
They're way worse.
That's what I thought, but I just...
Rabbits, I think it's like 2 or 3 months. Mice, it's like a month.
It's less than a month. I thought it was 3 weeks gestation. Or less than 3 weeks. It might be slightly less than 3 weeks gestation. Like 18 days or something. It's something. It's like, it's rude, y'all. It's rude. And so we lost Tom. So I was in a situation of, we boxed up all my yarn, which cost a lot of money. And the mice were still around. And they were going after other things like blankets and things we cared about. And we eventually found all of the kangaroo mice and caught them all. We did humanely release them into the woods, although knowing full well they probably weren't going to survive very long because apparently they don't handle a lot of rain. And our area gets 60 inches of rain a year or more. And lately, in the last decade, has gotten on average, I think, 63.5 inches of rain a year.
Oh, yeah. We compete with
Seattle.
With Seattle.
So we did release them, though, at this lovely pond that is maintained by the university. So they had their best chance possible. And everything was hunky-dory for a year. Hello, Heather. And then field mice came in, and I'm like, no, I've been here before. No. Now, all my yarn was still in totes and protective stuff. So I wasn't going through that again, but I was like, absolutely not. And then they invaded my stove. Did you know mice love to live in the insulation in stoves?
No, but that makes sense.
It stinks. When you turn it on, it's definitely not hygienic. And they will get rid of the insulation to make more room for themselves and their babies. So they ruin the insulation.
That I knew.
So, yes. So that is where I then found handyman.com or whatever was Handyman Magazine, where they had, do you suddenly have an influx of mice that you cannot figure out where they're coming from? And the answer is go check your dryer vent. Y'all, they weren't wrong. So we did, it was like, what was it? It was 13 steps to completely secure and check your exterior dryer vent for evidence that mice have invaded. And yeah, they had. And then when we fixed it, they said, now you're going to have a month from now, you have to go check it again to see if they didn't just chew through the exterior wood of your house to get in. Handyman was right too. Those little field mice did that as well. Those little cunning little rodents. And Handyman Magazine then told us what to do for that. And the articles were available for free. Not all of their articles are available for free, but, you know, truly, like, you feel like these are real handymen or handy people. I'm just saying the magazine was called Handyman.
I don't want to think what invasive parrots is like.
Like, parrots are jerks. There, I said it.
They are.
Come for me, bird people.
Yeah.
I love birds, but parrots are jerks.
I say that. It's like
too.
One of the tech people for our local regional chapter of the Audubon Society, and I'm like, parrots are jerks. But
they absolutely are
jerks.
Well, I feel like anyone who's like, no, they're not. I'm like, either you're a pirate who trained yours very well, or you're just in denial.
Right. Like, I love parrots in the wild, like living their little wildlife, normal lives in the place where they are supposed to live. Not those that are smuggled in and then sold at whatever black market. I'm not talking about that. I love, like, all the birds, especially the parrots, and then all of them living their regular, wonderful lives in a tropical forest, having a wonderful time. Yay. I think those are wonderful, and I love that. But the rest of the parrots, I have opinions about.
Well, yeah, like I any animal that is living in its natural habitat without humans messing it up, I'm fine. I'm like, you know what? If your species like goes to war with this other species because that is how you survive and that is evolution or whatever, fine. I will maybe watch a documentary on it. Otherwise, I will never know what happened, and it's okay. But when you have an animal that's being a jerk to you, then it becomes personal.
Yes. And yes. So what I recommend is any problem you're encountering in your home, whether, and you know, we rent the place that we live in right now. And we were renting when we got invaded by Australian kangaroo mice, and we were renting when we got invaded by field mice, and they like invaded our stove and oven, little jerks. I just Googled sudden mice in my home, how to find and fix. Yeah. Google is such a wonderful resource for connecting us with websites and videos that can help you. Tom was very skeptical that anyone had ever had any useful articles about how to figure out where the mice are coming from. That, or his other theory was they were coming in from the vent in the roof. So what happened was some of them were occasionally coming in from the vent in the roof. The solution was our house was adopted by several feral cats. We were not even feeding them, but they kept getting on the roof and dealing with the mice problem. So thank you. And, you know,
they're like, hey, I found this place. We don't have to go searching for anything. It's just there for us.
It's there, you know. So yeah,
it's an all-you-can-eat buffet.
I could hear the cats jumping from the tree nearest to the roof onto the roof, and then skittering around and stuff. And then they'd come down because I could hear them plunk down onto the little tree by the roof. And, when I realized what they were doing, occasionally you would see them up there chasing a mouse because you could see the little tail just run. And I was like, maybe they do deserve a little shrimp. Maybe I will feed the little house gods if they're going to take care of my mouse primpum. So I just want to point out there are solutions. There's probably no problem you're ever going to experience in your entire life that someone before you has not already experienced. And at some point, someone has felt so strongly about this, they have made a video or they wrote an article about how they found a solution finally after all this time. Isn't that the most wonderful thing about the 21st century? Is we actually have relatively easy ways to connect with each other about information in a quick and often free-ish manner. So, yeah, Chris says, I have a bunch of feral cats right off the property who handily like 98% of the mice, but my indoor cats and dogs could not care less. Exactly. Yeah, I think like we had Tom, I think your cat, the Darkness, was still alive at this point, and she was just like, not interested. No. I even picked her up once and like threw her into one corner of the living room where I had just spotted a kangaroo mouse. And she was like, what am I supposed to do? And like walked back to Tom's room. I was just like, rude. Useless. But the outside cats were like, oh, a new pleasure. So, however, what actually really solved it was anytime we'd spot a mouse or I'd hear them chewing, we'd go check the dryer vent again. And sure enough, they had found a way to take that cover off or to chew through the cover. And we would fix it again. It really only required about every 2-3 years checking it after we got it fully secured. But I mean, these are a lot of field mice in our area because we are in a very heavily wooded area of our county. So you're going to get pests, period. It's just part of living here. And it doesn't mean anything other than you live in the woods. So it's just something to be aware of. Are we about ready for a break?
Yeah. Riley, do you want to go over the previous poll? I put up a new one for the break.
Oh, I see. So you got the poll results. So what is the... Oh, okay, hold up.
I got a new one.
So our previous poll, the biggest hole in my life, 54% said my bank account, 27% said my mouth, 18% said my head, and 0% said where I live, although there may be one person who wanted to vote for that, and then their phone was just being a butt. We do have a current poll up available. What is the best quality for a professional repair person? Price, geekery, years as a professional, or conversational skills? That is up for y'all while we take a 10-minute bio break. I am not telling you what to do with your bio break time, but hey, do you have something to drink? When's the last time you snacked or put fuel in your body? Have you checked in with your bladder today?
Today?
Because you will miss your kidneys when they are not working anymore. When your kidneys are stressed, you will miss their functionality. So, hey.
I just want to know how someone can get through like almost a whole day without checking in on their bladder once. Like I understand the question is like, have you checked in the, last few hours? But like all day,
I'll answer that after we come back. There is actually, I've had way too many A&P classes. This has come up in a few.
Okay, well, so we will definitely answer that burning question. Pun intended.
Hopefully not too personally.
Yeah, I was like,
I could not help it. I'm sorry. The puns. And so we will come back in approximately 10 minutes where we will talk more about, okay, first off, the burning question about bladders and kidneys. And then after that, we will then talk about fixing, repairing, and diagnosing all sorts of problems. And not just the household kind, also the human body kind. And the human brain kind.
It's a segue.
Segue in, yes. So, we will see y'all in approximately 10 minutes. Maybe to beep. Maybe to beep. Maybe to beep beep beep. Come out wherever you are.
And meet the young lady who fell from a star. Come on.
Wah! Hello, Tom.
Hello.
Tom's having a good time. How did everybody's break go?
Good.
I watched several of the puppy reels that Tom sent me. Lots of chubby little puppy tummies.
Well, you see what I said on Instagram.
That's where I was looking.
Okay, so you saw the little the little bulldog that they put medicine on his tail. So they had to dress him in the 2-year-old's underwear.
Yes.
Is that not your home experience with me?
Just walking around in your underwear, yep. Along with the rest of my family. And the only one who doesn't just walk around in underwear.
Would you like me to give you both some time?
I've just come to accept it. So, Tom, the burning question.
Okay.
Tell us what you learned from anatomy, all your many A and P classes.
So here's what happens with your body and your kidneys. There's sort of 2 modes for your kidneys. There is too much water, and that's its first mode. That's where your bladder will fill up. Usually it will fill up most of your bladder with extra water within about an hour and a half to 2 hours. And then it will switch over to filtering out, making sure to filter out everything else but leaving water in because the bladder is full. We do not want to hurt the bladder, so it will severely reduce how much water it filters out after that point. And a lot of people, this is fine. They can go 6, 8 hours, 12 hours, no problem. But if your nerves are a bit more sensitive, you may find, the urge after 2 hours of like, oh, I got to go pee. But a lot of people just, those kidneys just switch modes to, just getting rid of, excessive amounts of salts and other little, byproducts. But if you get cold, and what your body does when it gets cold is it, it reduces your blood supply to, your hands and your feet and your extremities. And suddenly you got a lot more water in the center. And that's too much, for your heart to deal with. So it will then again start, getting rid of water. Like when you go to the movie theaters. And that's why you got to go pee again. But as Corey said, like you're going to miss it when your kidneys don't filter too well. And so that's why it's every couple hours, just go pee anyway. Especially if you are drinking water regularly, you'll have enough for your body to get rid of that extra water to begin with. Also, 25% of calories, or a third of the calories you digest gets turned into water. You are literally making water when you convert sugar into energy.
And as our mother's urologist and nephrologist pointed out, if you are in any way concerned whether you're hydrated adequately or not, the answer is in the color of your urine, more than likely.
Sorry.
So what you're looking for is...
It's my turn. Gore needs to have some audio.
What mom's urologist and nephrologist said is what you're looking for is pale lemonade. Very pale lemonade is the perfect...
I'm never going to be able to drink lemonade again because of that.
Yeah, like not bright lemonade. A pale color, like watered down lemonade, is like...
Didn't you say like a pale yellow? Yeah,
I'm
you
just
had to go for lemonade.
I'm literally quoting her doctors. Okay, that's all. This is how they tell their patients.
Yeah, that pale pastel yellow.
Yeah, that is what your goal should be in hydration. Is when you go pee, that's what it looks like, and that's what makes everybody who's dealing with that part of the system, whether we're talking nephrologist and the kidney guy, or the kidney doctor, or urologist, the whole rest of the plumbing. The ideal for humans level is that pastel yellow color, and that is how you know that you are ideally hydrated. So if it's paler than that, you may want to dial back on the liquids. If it is darker or brighter than that, you chug some more water.
Although it usually will be a bit darker when you first go to the bathroom in the morning because it's had time to build up more.
Yeah.
You know, your bladder's only so big.
But yeah, that's what our mother's doctors would tell me, because mom had one kidney removed from having kidney cancer. And oh, don't worry, before she died, she was apparently regrowing a kidney. We do have scans of this.
Yeah, she had a second kidney that was already 6-8 years old.
Yeah.
Literally the size of an 8-year-old's kidney.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't know that was possible.
That's apparently what a lot of doctors said.
We weren't joking when we say that our mother's genetics are literally studied in
All
3
over.
different places around the world for possible living forever qualities.
Yes.
Because she regenerated far more than most people should have been able to.
And quicker than most. Like, they knew about like livers. If you leave even a third of a liver.
Did they ask you, or was it another Henrietta Lacks situation?
Oh no, they asked us because
I mean, mom, they asked mom when she was alive of like, is it okay if we study this? And we were like, yes, please. Let us hopefully help with genetics. Also, we found it hilarious that the people who think eugenics is the answer would never go, yeah, everybody should look like our mother. Our mother was a 4'8" potato. And that is not the ideal image of a eugenics human. And that is hilarious to us. So, but like the fact that any human body could regrow an organ, even just a kidney, on its own. And it was a 1.5 inch in length attached to that ureter. When she passed away 10 years after her kidney was removed. That was pretty impressive. And we had 360 scans of this that we were able to make copies for every one of her doctors, and several of them were publishing articles about this. So, including her urologist surgeon, who was the one who removed the kidney. And so it's pretty cool. It's pretty amazing. And we hope that their research of mom's genetics will help humans in the future. But yeah, she was wild.
I mean, downside of those genetics, though, is you do have to watch out because cancer incidence is much higher.
Yes.
On the other hand, in those same scans, it did show that she'd had several cancers in her body that her body had just calcified and taken care of. No, not dealing with you.
Yep, she had 8 different spots on the outside of her lungs that had all calcified. The pulmonologist estimated in her late teens, early 20s.
And then 3 places in her brain.
Yeah, so that had all calcified, were no longer growing, had no signs of growing in the past several decades. So while she grew a lot of tumors, her body was able to handle a lot of the tumors that were growing that were malignant.
The kidney one, they actually had theorized, had probably been going on for over a decade, and she probably could have gone another decade or 2 without needing it removed. But it was a just in case.
The kidney cancer, not the kidney that grew.
No, the kidney cancer of just in case, since there was always, with cancer, a small chance of metastasis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And she had very, very good insurance of like 2 or 3 different insurance companies at the time.
Yeah.
2 of which were federal. well, you have that insurance. Let's just take care of it now. And the same actually for her thyroid. Her body was mostly handling it, but it was a just in case this is still a dangerous kind of cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Much appreciated.
So.
Yeah, the one that got her, though, she was only the 63rd person on the planet to ever been diagnosed with it. So they had no idea how to treat it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, apparently nobody's duodenum normally grows tumorous or let alone cancerous. That's apparently, that was thought for a long time to be impossible. So, it was one of those rarities. But anyhow, back to fixing, diagnosing, and what to call a professional, including the human body and the human mind.
And so let's talk about what is it the qualities that make a good professional? Because if you're going to spend money on someone, no one wants regrets afterwards of why did I spend that money?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was thinking a good example story is probably Glory's roof, actually. The same one we were talking about that got blown away. What it took to get it fixed, it's more than most people would imagine.
I had been trying to get it fixed for 2-3 years before that. And everybody said it was impossible because it had high gables. So it had these steep, they're apparently called gables in the roofing world. And it's not the kind of roof you would want to put down here when we have so much rain. Because the water, when it's raining, will rush off of it so fast. And it's very destructive where you meet another gable, in the corner.
Versus, it's fine for up north where the person who originally built this in the mid 1800s was from, and you have so much snow that you want to make sure it doesn't build up.
Yeah.
But down here, no.
Yeah, since we don't get snow, we get rain. And apparently in Connecticut, they don't actually get that much rain, but they do get a lot of snow. So,
the more you know.
Right? And the back half was put so the front half of the house was moved to its current location in town in the 1880s. The back half, and it was like half of the square footage, was put on in the early 60s, and they gave it an entirely flat roof with no pitch. So imagine this rain is hitting it at 60 to 80 miles an hour on a flat roof. And the flat roof is what was destroyed in Katrina. The flat roof was what I was trying to get a design of a gabled roof from the moment I bought it on. And every architect in town said it's impossible to put a gabled roof on the back half. And then Katrina hit, and that was the end of that flat roof, which I was not shocked. And we talked to every contractor that came. A lot of contractors moved to Mississippi after Hurricane Katrina because Mississippi actually experienced quite a bit more widespread damage than Louisiana or Texas did. So, and again, we were looking for anybody who knew how to fix this roof, how to put a proper roof on the back too. I don't want another flat roof. I would like, because that flat roof always leaked. I would like a proper roof that will not leak. And we did actually...
Reasonable thing to want.
Right? And we did eventually find a group that knew how to fix it. The official contractor eventually was the first one indicted for widespread scams. But the actual crew he'd hired that worked on our roof, who I worked with directly, were wonderful. And they were from Honduras, where they also get a tremendous amount of rain. So they knew how to fix this problem. But they themselves, and I was like, why don't you have a contract? I would rather work with y'all than this jerk. And because he treated them terrible too.
First rule, never hire a contractor whose wife does not live in the same state, let alone the same town they are working in.
Wait, are you joking?
Nope.
Not that that's the rule, but that was the situation, is what I...
Yeah, no, I'm not good at exaggerating. This is literally what happened. His wife lived in Arizona, and He was the very first one indicted by the state of Mississippi. And they even told me while I had a great case, because I had reported him to the SBA, I had gotten an SBA loan to fix this roof. That's what, after Hurricane Katrina, you could qualify for, was an SBA loan, even though this is not a business, it's a home, federal government. And the attorney general said, since you live out of town, out of Jackson, we don't live in the capital. He said, we have so many people like literally around here that don't have to travel far who also will give us great testimony that we don't think we'll need you. But in case we think the judge will need more convincing, we will let you know if we need you to testify. There were so many people this guy ripped off. But I did not suffer as much as others did because I actually got a good working roof out of it because the crew that he had just randomly assigned to us from Honduras, who were not able to get a contractor's approval from the federal government because all the forms are strictly in English. You have to have all this citizenship stuff. And they just simply did not qualify. And also it takes 2 to 3 years minimum to qualify. That was another major issue in Mississippi with why there were so many contractors scamming, is the only people who could get qualified to work on SBA approved homes after Hurricane Katrina already had government approved contracts. So not anyone else who'd never had a need to have a federal contract before. Because why would you, unless you're working for the federal government? Guess what? The federal government attracts a lot of grift. But because the crew assigned to us, who had come up directly from Honduras to work on these roofs, since the weather is very similar in South Mississippi as it is in Honduras, so they really did know how to make roofs airtight or watertight because the weather is very similar. So they also understood the humidity. It's a very unique.
I hear my mom playing.
Oh, it's okay. It's a very unique roofing situation in South Mississippi with us being subtropical. And so they did a fantastic job. And they solved the problem that no architect trained in America had been able to solve. How do you put a high gabled roof to match a flat, a extension?
Coincidentally, you use our great uncle's design for trains.
It's called a Fink truss. And while it's
not even joking,
it's no longer used in train bridges.
Because it's for wood. It's for wood structures.
Yeah, it's ideal for wood. And so what it is used for is in house roofs. That is what the Fink truss is now used primarily in, because it still works quite well since most roofs are made of wood. So that was kind of neat. But yeah, that's what they put. Like in Honduras, they've all been using those because it worked well for the last 120 years. Were these Fink truss roofs.
And they loved, believe me, they loved talking about what they needed to do to put up these trusses. They very much they loved talking shop.
They're lovely people.
And that's part of what I wanted to bring up about it was, well, yes, how long a professional has been on the job doing their job definitely gives you a sense of their general knowledge. In some ways, on par with that is how geeky are they about their job? Because what you're looking for in a professional handyman or any repair, including your doctor, is someone who just really likes what they're doing and is curious and is always trying to find out more and try new things, because it means they're paying attention. They are fascinated by the subject.
That was almost my answer for that reason, but I wound up picking the one who's like able to communicate it best. So I picked conversational.
I think I think communication is very important as well.
Because if they don't listen to you, find someone else, even if they're not quote unquote as good as the one who you tried before.
Yeah,
the one who listens to you is more likely to actually get at the problems you are having.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, whenever I feel like I'm not being listened to at a doctor's, I'm like, you're charging way too much for me to be doing this with you. So I'm like out of there pretty fast. I'm like, I don't have time for you.
Yeah, exactly. Versus like Cherry Panda just had 2 repairs done, and let me tell you, the experience really makes a difference. They got it done so easily and were so jolly because it's what they're enjoying doing.
Mm-hmm.
Versus, like I have, especially with GPs and surgeons, I have seen this the most, as well as, handymen to a lesser degree. Lori's dealt with a lot more professionals for like, plumbing and house repair and stuff, and electricians, but surgeons I like and GPs I like are both very geeky and they just want to talk shop.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, we're going to do this and then we're going to do this. And then, but they're always happy to talk. It never exhausts or exasperates them. They will regurgitate these answers they figured out many times because they're like, it's so cool. And then I do this, the same for vets. I did some work, computer work for a retired veterinarian, and she could just, recite from rote. It was kind of funny to watch her of how to do spaying and neutering, because she just does so many over the years. It's just like, you do this, and then you hold this, and then you do that, and then and just, because for her is, it was no big deal. It's something, they always do. Here's what you look out for.
Mm-hmm.
But she always liked talking about it because she was fascinated with it.
It's also when like someone knows their stuff that they can that they can communicate it to someone who doesn't know their
Yes.
stuff. That always gives me more confidence than.
Yeah, can they translate the concepts easily
Yeah.
because they understand it so well?
Yeah. Because if it's like, oh, well, if you know, it's like, well, that's great. I don't, which is obviously why I'm asking. So.
Mm-hmm. Same thing with mechanics. If they want to just tell you everything's broken and they don't want to tell you, ways to fix it and ways to avoid it and what probably is the causes for this.
If they're struggling to explain it to a layperson in a way that's coherent to the person who doesn't know anything about their area of expertise, it really shows that maybe their comprehension is shallower, that they're not able to explain in a coherent way to somebody who doesn't have any background information about that. So I would just say that it can let it be a flag for you. It's not necessarily, one flag and you're out, but just let that be a flag to be consciously aware of. Hey, this person's is not really explained to me in a way that makes sense to me, or let alone makes sense to me well enough that I can explain it coherently to someone else.
So like what the Hondurans did was because, let's be honest.
We had a language issue. We had a language barrier.
Yeah, the language barrier was there.
The Spanish I was even taught was somewhere between Mexico and Spain Spanish. And Honduran Spanish is very different. They have very different words for even just basic household things like trash can. I learned.
So they drew out a lot.
Yeah, we did a lot of drawing. I just bought them a lot of sketch pads and was like,
you got really good at Pictionary.
Oh, they were great at drawing, thank goodness. And then,
one of them had some real art skills.
Oh, yeah. So I just gave them extra sketch pads. But, because they were,
sweet.
Well, they were, like, they had come up to help with Hurricane Katrina rebuilding. So, they didn't even live in the area, but,
not that they weren't, like, good people and didn't, quote, unquote, deserve it, but that's still, like, very nice of you to do. You know what I mean?
I mean, they were there for like 2 months overall. We had a real working relationship. They were very nice. I eventually hired some of their wives to help me with just regular cleanup around the house, since they had brought their whole families with them up to do work, not just like, just a few construction people. The whole family with the kids came up, and I'm like, bring the kids, it's fine, because look, if they're going to have little kids running around, granted with shoes on, because that was my role.
No one wants to get tetanus.
But yeah, so they're going to make sure to catch all those nails. So I was like, yeah, bring the little toddlers around. I've got some toys that are, toddler appropriate. Being in education myself, I was going to school at the time. So it worked out well for us. They were really lovely folks. But yeah, we did have a bit of a language barrier because I did not even speak the right country of their language, because Spanish is so diverse.
Yeah.
It's so country specific.
Yeah.
So thankfully we were able to find other ways to communicate, because this was before like you could use smartphones and have Google tell you, speak words for you and all that. So this worked out well for us. But they were there for months, so you can build a relationship with people if they're in your house every day, even before you get up. I mean, they had a key to my house.
But yeah,
But
they are the ones with the.
You don't do that in New York City. You'd be like, you could be the nicest people in the world. I'm still not doing that.
I gotta be honest, it's not like I had a lot to steal at that point. Okay, like.
No, it's like in New York, it doesn't matter if you have a lot to steal. There's also the personal safety thing. You're like, it's
I'd
not
wake
against
up.
you.
I did not have a roof in part of my bedroom. So every morning I'd wake up and there's construction people who can fully see me sleep. At that point already, they might as well have a key so I don't have to get up. Just here you go, buddies. Just get started. Because otherwise they'd have to leave a ladder up to the roof, and anybody who's walking by could just, no, thank you. Let's just get you a key to the back door.
And again, it's something that you're doing for weeks at a time. And that's where, you do build up trust over time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't do it on the first day. I did it at the end of the second week of, hey, y'all keep coming back. You want just a key to the back
and
door?
I think Spence has a good point about the geeky aspect comes down to, ooh, oh yeah, actually, versus, well, actually.
Yes. Because when they get excited and happy at a challenge, that's a great sign. Whether we're talking about a medical person or a construction person or a plumber or anything, a mechanic, anything, is you want to see them get happy, excited about, a challenge or something to research. Cool. Versus, So like, for instance, in our family, pretty much every member on mom's side, at least, has some variation of Ehlers-Danlos, which is genetic. And it has to do with our bodies don't make collagen like regular people. It used to be believed to be very rare. So almost any doctor that I go see, if I say, I have Ehlers-Danlos, I literally don't put it on, if I'm seeing them for the first time, I don't put it on the form because I want to see their face. When I say, so I have Ehlers-Danlos, are you familiar? And I want to see if they go, ooh, I was told this was rare. Can we get you on the table? And then it proceeds to be that scene from the Muppets Take Manhattan with Kermit in the hospital bed. How can you stretch? But nevertheless, I want to see them excited, because not every doctor I've ever told that to has gotten happy, excited. Some of them are like, okay. I've never had a good experience after they go, okay. Versus, ooh, can I get my other friend who's a doctor, to come in and see this?
Because also then they're more likely to do their own research. We have caught so many doctors that we said, we'll tell them, okay, you need to go look this up and this up before, you need to make sure, check on this interaction, that we've then caught, a month later. No, they never checked.
Yeah, there's some special things for stitching up skin that has Ehlers-Danlos. You can't use regular surgical stitches. They'll pull. Like, they often bust the first day. You don't want a busted stitch or more.
Yeah.
It is super bad because it's putting stress on the other stitches. And they'll, like, I've had stitches where I've had layers of stitches, actually. And over a 36-hour period, felt every single stitch pop. That is the problem. And so
Really?
a doctor, and a doctor who doesn't want to do the research ahead of time, that's an issue. And like, you can tell a doctor you need to do this research, but if they're not looking forward to it, they're just like every other human being. Guess what? Some people say they did their homework and don't. So whether we're talking about a mechanic or a human mechanic, or what some people call doctors, you still want somebody who is very naturally curious about some situation. whether it's, oh, look, this is a difficult to solve roofing problem, or this is a difficult to stitch human being. I need to go do a whole bunch of research. Yay. Something new to learn. If they're not excited about that, that is an issue. I've also seen therapists where I tell them some of my prior diagnosis and they're like, oh, okay. Versus the therapists are like, ooh, I've heard tell, but I've never seen one in the field with your diagnosis. And that...
You're a unicorn.
What? Well, I haven't told that actually. At least that I'm so functional with my dysfunction. Haha. But the ones that are like genuinely interested and curious, I've had much better outcomes from, including help from those therapists versus the ones who are not excited. It's an issue. It's something to be concerned about when you're trying to evaluate which professional to hire, or of the professionals available, are there any worth hiring? You know, sometimes of the professionals available, the answer is, can you just wait a year till, you know, something better comes along? Because
I mean, we've gone through a lot of GPs trying to find decent ones, in part because, like, speaking of learned helplessness, whether it's, you know, a contractor, a mechanic of any kind, a handyman, you should never worry about going, you know what? I don't need you to work on this. I'm going to find someone else. This, for whatever reason, it's not feeling good. It's not feeling right. And go with your instinct. For whatever reason, you don't have to give a reason to them. You just go, I've decided to do something different. Because a prior experience is probably ringing in that there is something cued in the back of your head of like, this before hasn't worked out for some reason. Go find the one you're happy with and you want to go back to.
I had a therapist who, like, she was very nice and all, but I wasn't loving that she kept making everything about something. And I was like, look, I'm not denying that there might, you know, the human mind, human emotion, you know, a lot of things interact in ways that maybe we don't know. Fine. But like, you're also trying to fit a round peg into a square hole. And I hadn't cut ties with her after I'd started feeling that. And then she prescribed me a medication, which had a side effect, which I had, knew it was a side effect. And she completely flipped out, sent me to the hospital, forced me to stay there overnight, traumatizing experience. And then at the end, I was like, yep, nope, always going to trust my gut, where it's like, it doesn't have to be something bad to happen before you.
Yeah, just you're picking up on a lot of little cues that, you know, is what your mind's trying to tell you.
I'm sorry, go on.
But that learned helplessness also says, but if I don't have a direct way to verbalize and say why this is, then I can't act on it. No, you can act on it whenever you want. Don't worry about that. Don't second guess. Be kind with yourself.
I had a therapist a long time ago, and I actually have had many, but I had this one therapist that, again, they gave me the okay response to the diagnosis I received from a prior therapist. And then every single appointment, all she wanted to do was talk about my marriage. And I was like, I agree my marriage doesn't sound that functional, but I'm more interested in getting to the heart of these problems, which I believe stem from my childhood and adolescence and did not start with my marriage. I'm concerned with getting to the heart of this.
Not just treating symptoms.
Right. That was, and she just, every single appointment made it about my marriage. And I'm like, why am I the one who's more interested in going into my background and my backstory, if you will, than you are? And she's like, well, this seems to be what's really bothering you. I'm like, it's not. My reaction, and also where essentially how I got in this situation in the first place, is what I'm interested in.
Yeah, I So the therapist I was talking about, she was like, "Oh, it's all because you're adopted." And I'm like, "Well, first of all, good luck with that, honey. I don't remember anything from that time. And it was a closed adoption from China during the one-child policy here. So, okay, maybe you're right. You're wrong, first of all. Like I know for a fact you're wrong, that there are other factors in my life that have affected me. Second of all, even if you were right, that's a black hole. So, like, does that mean that I can't do anything for myself? Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, you want to hear like how a good sign, even if it is a little odd. Carrie's little story.
I was seeing a specialist when I was first diagnosed with my hypothyroidism. Then we found out my mom had it, and my sister and my dad, and it is rare in men, I think. It is. I've heard that too. The doctor always had students, and we get so excited when we came in, and we gush to students about this unusual circumstance. Yes, I love it when they gush of like, come students, come see this rarity. And because like I get that too, and I'm like, yes, come learn from me so you don't mess up a person who really needs your help. Like that is how I view it.
Speaking of people with poor bedside manner.
Cherry says the one thing the mechanic that I will hate no matter what is the dentist. That's where I get the nicest one possible to make it the best experience possible.
Again, you want a dentist that listens to you and responds to every emotion you show.
Yeah, my mom has a really good one. Doesn't accept insurance because, of course, not. But
that's probably part of why they're happier and a better dentist, because insurance is the devil.
Yeah, but I get mine done at NYU through this student thing, and because they're all there, like, you know, observing and helping each, like they clearly want to do a good job, and I've only had good experiences there. But while I get that you want someone who's like eager to learn and things like that, at the same time, when I've been told like, oh, I've never seen that before, I'm like, did you really have to tell me that? Like, can't you just be like, oh, like, okay, I think I can help you, or, you know, just be honest and be like, I don't think I can help you. And also be like, but I need to do more research because it sounds like your case is like unique or something. Don't tell me upfront where it's like, oh, I've never seen this before. I was like, I don't need to be your guinea pig.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Again, that's the other part of, like we've talked about, like Laura and I would actually have an easier time with doctors up in New York because they would be more likely to see problems like us. And funnily, probably you would have an easier time down here since there is such a larger community that, you know, the doctors percentage-wise are going to see more of Southeast Asian descent, and especially a lot from Vietnam and China specifically. That they'll be more, you know, used to those problems that show up with that group.
Mm-hmm.
And like, yeah, that is part of with your doctors or with anything like plumbers. You want the plumbers that have worked on the kind of houses you are in, because plumbing problems in an apartment complex are very different than an old house versus a new house. Plumbing changes every decade or two, and the materials that are used, you need someone who knows how those behave.
Mm-hmm.
Same for electricians, computers, you know. Computer people may try to say they're universal, but truth is Mac and PC are not that similar. And while I can do a small amount of work on a Mac, I can do a lot more on a Windows and server systems because of familiarity. I've worked on the systems. I know how they're designed more.
Yeah, I'm a lot better with Mac. I briefly had this end of 2019, start of 2020, I had a Razer laptop because my ex was like a gamer and he did computer stuff. So he's like, oh, like, you know, if you still want to use Mac stuff, like I can set that up for you. But this will also let us like actually game together because it was a long distance relationship. And I was okay. Like I figured out where the menus were pretty quickly and things like that. But the reason I just switched back was because I don't think it was the computer's fault, but I had a flash drive and a hard drive plugged into the computer. So maybe it was the computer. I don't know. They both got corrupted and I lost like thousands of files, including novel stuff and things like that. And my mom was like, that's it. This never happened with Mac. You're going back. And I was like, well, I mean, like, I'm not going to complain. But, like, I know that a lot of people have one preference over the other. And I think it's maybe because I grew up with PC. And there were some people in my family. I think they're all gone now. Not the people, the PCs in the family. I think they've all been replaced with Macs at this point. But there was, like, a long time where when I was getting used to Mac, I still had people in the family who used PC. So I had to maintain a certain familiarity with the other system, even after my mom and I
and
it.
And also to real quick get into that conversation, the designers of Mac and PC have different views on how their users behave. And so there is different expectations for how the user is going to interact with the system. And so, like, I don't know, how do I say this? The problem with that laptop and the, just destroying everything at once.
Is that it destroyed everything at once?
There is a small possibility it could be just the way you or your house was interacting with that system.
I was on I'm never doing this again. I was on.
No, and the reason I bring that up is like
no. I wasn't at home though. I was on a cruise.
Oh, okay. I would actually blame that cruise ship, because we know one thing no one talks about computers, and they have a sensitivity that hasn't changed in 30 years, but anyone who's been on computers long enough eventually hears about this, is how good is the power? Because power fluctuations, while your power supply, your power brick or whatever is supposed to handle the fluctuation, it only somewhat. And the more those fluctuations happen, the more little things get corrupted in the system and the more likely for catastrophic failure. That's why server farms have special power supplies that rectify and make sure there's not a voltage change, even a tenth of a volt change, because those little voltage fluctuations add up and can cause catastrophic problems over time. So like,
wait, even if we had our own power strip with the surge protector.
No, that doesn't change anything about the voltage. And to give you a case in point, and this is a real case, after Katrina, my friends and I all went up to a friend of mine's grandmother up in Northeast Mississippi.
Like literally they were fleeing after Hurricane Katrina.
Yeah. And we all fled up there because we knew, where it was safe. She could house several people at once. So like she took in like 4 or 5
strays,
6 refugees at once.
I was not there. I've been there later, but anyway.
And of course, we're all in our early 20s and teens. Lately, when my little sister went up with me, we all took our laptops and computers. Within 8 months after Katrina, every single one of us had our hard drives corrupt.
But they were only up there in North Mississippi for like what, a week and a half?
No, 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay, so it wasn't immediate that this happened, and it didn't happen while they were there, but the damage was done.
But it just slowly built up, and eventually they all wore down and they all broke. Because he lived in the rural area of Northeast Mississippi, so the voltage was also much more variable. Just whenever the squirrels would bounce on the poles, the voltage would change.
This place was so in the woods. I'd
well, did eventually go up there, by the way.
Photo program, my art project up there at this house later, because I heard about it and was like, I gotta get pictures. And this place is so in the backwoods of North Mississippi. It was like, it's amazing y'all can keep a light bulb going. I did react to Spence. And yes, Spence, I thought about you last night when I was working on the bread pudding and had to switch bowls because my bowl wasn't big enough. Like, if only Spence could see me. Anyway.
But as said, like it helps, just years of being a professional help and familiarity with those systems help that because no one else talks about this. They go, oh, it's not a big deal, but voltage changes in computers especially.
So like a computer in an old house, so the electrical work is old and probably wasn't like the best electrical lines whenever they put the electrical lines in, and it's been decades. So oxidation is not our friend.
Okay, now I'm terrified to bring my laptop anywhere, which kind of defeats
so
the purpose of having a laptop which you can bring places.
There are solutions.
Namely, charge it when you're not using it. It's more of the voltage changes while you're using it that are the effect.
Okay. Yeah,
charging the battery is not a problem. It's essentially using it while it's plugged in at a place that ain't that great to begin with.
Okay, also, I was definitely doing that on the ship.
If you're concerned about the electricity you're going to be using, in UPS, a universal power supply, is also wonderful to invest in, particularly if like you're concerned about the electrical lines in your home or wherever.
The phrase you're looking for is pure sine wave. And that means that it will change it so that the voltage doesn't change. It will keep the voltage steady. That's what you're looking for. That's what you'll also see in certain better quality, what do you call them, to get 120 volts out of your car?
Converters?
Yeah. You'll see ones that say pure sine wave. And again, that's to say that no matter what your car's alternator's doing, it'll only give you a steady voltage. So again, you won't get these problems of deterioration in electronics because of voltage drops.
That is the phrase that pays.
Well, now I can tell my mom, hey, it wasn't the computer. I'm still very glad to be back on Mac because I'm more comfortable with it.
Right.
But remember that super, super expensive trip that you paid for because you thought there would be young people and there weren't? But we met some cool friends, but like...
But yeah, if you're going to travel somewhere and you are worried about, your computer systems, find an UPS that has pure sine wave, and that'll make sure your computer doesn't get affected by that.
I am pulling that up now.
And they do make them now where they don't even have a battery backup. It's not actually a true UPS, but it will rectify your voltage so it stays steady. They even have that for houses now in rural areas. Like an ex of mine got on her house because the voltage was so bad.
It was so bad. I tried to tell her, and she was like, no, it's fine. This is a relatively new house. And I'm like, I don't care how new your house is. If it was constructed poorly, it was constructed poorly.
And so then the power company came out and installed it on her box to make sure the voltage would stay steady because
it was so bad. So there's like, I think it's like when trying to diagnose your problems or knowing when to fix or when to call a professional, it can be useful to find professionals to just consult with, to like know enough to know what you need to know.
That's why I tell people whenever I work on their stuff or I'm chatting them up, my video is like, look, if it's something that's not going to take me 15 minutes to figure out or answer, I don't charge for that because that's just, I know something. That's not my actual work and labor. That's most time I'm familiar with it, like computer systems. I can answer a lot of computer questions that most people would spend an hour or two trying to research, but I know the words. So it doesn't take me long to figure out what's the issue. And then I can quickly tell them like, here's the situation. You can do, here's your choices. What do you want to handle? And yeah, it's where it does pay to have relationships with professionals. So you can just ask them, is this something I need to go to you about?
But then I always feel bad because I'm like, you're a professional. You get paid for this. You're my friend. I don't want you to think that I'm taking advantage
again, though,
of our friendship.
But again, if it's 5 or 10 minute thing, it's not an effort. Now, if you're asking them to actually, then work on it and, fix this.
No.
Or
I
if it
feel
takes-
like even just asking them a thing, I'm like, I don't want to bother.
Or if it takes a while to diagnose, like if it's something that's not just immediate, then yeah, I understand. But yeah, if it's like a 5-minute thing where it's just them typing in, like, let me check on something, and they can tell you, like, all right, here's what you need to do to figure out for sure if it's this or this. And in general, here's about what the costs are either way. No, that's just
start asking more
that's
questions.
something professionals do in our life all the time.
Yeah, like
it's an estimate.
So the way I think of it is this. Okay. So doctors always talk about, or used to talk about, back when cocktail parties were a thing, so long ago, of why at cocktail parties people are always asking me to like do medical exams. When what I found doctors do not mind, and if anything, kind of like, because it's a little bit of, they get to show what they know, is, hey, could I show you a picture or could I show you this thing and you tell me whether I should go see a doctor or not, or see you, or even just like, is this something I should be worried about, or is this nothing at this point anyway? And because like the most common thing back in the day of cocktails, doctors were asked is, does this look cancerous? And we're really talking mostly about moles, and specifically we're talking about basal cancer, which is not like a fast growing or really usually dangerous unless it's ignored for years anyway. And so it's like, if you're just asking, hey, could I show you this lump and you tell me whether I should go make an appointment with you or go see a doctor at all, or just tell me, no, that looks like it's okay, or I can't tell, we need to do a biopsy, so you need to make an appointment with somebody. That's all I need to know is, should I see a professional or not? Doctors don't care. They're like, sure, I'll tell you whether you need to see a doctor or not. Mechanics don't care. Sure, turn on your car and I'll tell you if that sounds weird or not. You need to go see a mechanic. Whatever it is, professionals are like, sure, I will tell you if you need to actually go see a professional or whether this is nothing. So that includes computer people of, hey, can I turn on my laptop and you hear this clatter it's making and tell me, is this a normal sound or is this a dangerous sound? And because there is a sound that I've worked on computers for decades. Everyone I know who's ever worked on computers for any length of time, the answer is, oh my God, that's the rattle of death. You better back up your hard drive right this literal second.
Turn it off now. Turn it off. Turn it off.
There is a sound. There is a specific sound, and that's why I've never told people no with, fine, turn on your computer and let me know the minute you hear the sound, and I will tell you whether this is this is a sound to ignore or this is a dangerous sound. Because there is one sound back in the days of
mechanical hard drives.
Yeah, mechanical hard drives. Of, no, that's the bad sound, and when death is coming for you. So, and if you've never had a hard drive die on you like that, then you don't know what the sound is.
Or a simpler question I get asked a lot is, would upgrading the RAM in my computer help with my problems? And it's like, all right, tell me what you do.
But it's
and then how much RAM do you have?
Literally figure out in a matter of 90 seconds or less. Ain't no professional ever, or at least any professional worth their salt, should ever have an issue with hearing, 90 seconds of your trouble. Because it's 90 seconds.
I think it's because I've watched like Dr. Mike and Dr. Mama Jones, and they're like, what's the weirdest and most annoying thing that's happened to you at a party or something? And it's always like people have just come up to me and been like, diagnose this. So I'm like, I know that's a doctor versus like, is this a concept that you
should I see a doctor? It's not the same as diagnose it. It's like, does this look suspicious to you?
True.
I just need a professional to tell me whether I'm being paranoid or not.
And I also get the same for massage therapy.
And we get the same for computers.
Mechanics.
We get the same of like, does this behavior on this laptop look suspicious or not?
Okay.
Or the other question of like, would a massage help with this problem I'm having, or do I need to go see someone else? And it's like, all right, yeah, I'll take a quick check and see, like, is this just muscular, or is this more problematic and it's probably going to need some x-rays and really get checked on?
Or a chiropractor or something. Like, is this more than just a muscular problem that a massage therapist can address? Again, it takes like 90 seconds usually. It ain't going to take more than 5 minutes for any of these things. And it may be 5 minutes of professionals' time, but also, let's be honest, if you spend that much time researching this area of expertise, hopefully you like it enough that you enjoy talking for 90 seconds to 5 minutes about with anybody who's like, hey, is this something I should be concerned about or not? You know? Even like now, if it's, hey, come in the bathroom here and look at my vajayjay and tell me, like, that's different.
That requires credits on a friendship that's already been, put in reserve.
Because you don't want to know what your friends look like. You know? But, yeah, like, it's no big deal of, hey, I can give you 90 seconds and see if that's something that I'm going to say. I'm going to refer you to an expert on this one or a professional to actually do in depth.
And again, that's where the conversational skills do come in handy with the professional, so that you can both converse and understand each other of, is this something I need to worry about in your profession? And if not, or if so, what do I need to know? Because obviously I'm ignorant.
Right.
Just like when a baker sees a home cook's or a home non-professionals bread that they're making, they can figure out pretty quick what happened with that bread. And if you ask them, they can probably tell you, like, have you tried this and this? It's not a major problem for them to just give you a little piece of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you want them to do effort and make the bread for you, yes, you need to pay. But sharing of knowledge.
Yeah, I find people who have spent all this time and energy to be professionals, i.e. experts in their field, they have a genuine enjoyment of this knowledge of this subject matter. So I think it's also just the way one can word the question. Does this lump look suspicious? Should I see a professional? Versus diagnose me right now at this cocktail party. Like, there's the difference, if that makes sense. Of, hey,
no,
my
it totally does. I think I was just, because I've only heard really people
the bad negative form.
The bad one, that I never had an example where it's like, well, yeah, if you do it right, there's no problem.
Yeah, or like, hey, my car's making a sound. May I make this, make the sound for you, and you tell me if this is a normal car sound, or should I go see a mechanic? I don't know of any mechanic at a cocktail party that's ever been like, no, don't make the sound. Unless it was like, is it super loud? Like, can you just do it in normal volume? You're like, yeah, it's just like, that does not sound good. What part of the car is it coming from? It's usually the follow-up question every mechanic at a cocktail party is.
But again, you note that there is consent in that conversation as well.
Right. Of like, I make this sound.
I ask you something, and you go, sure. And then you ask the question, and then, again, it's is this a good time, or to ask you another?
Yeah.
So we are about to go to break, but is this, Zara, I don't know what your schedule is.
You just froze for a second for me.
I was
you froze for us.
Okay. I was asking, Zara, we're about to go to break, but does your schedule, you need to...
well, here's the thing is that I actually had a bit of a headache before coming on. So I told my teacher I'm not showing up in person. So how long is this break? Because my class starts at 6:30. So I don't know if I should do my outro now and then just be like, not return after the bio break, or if I should like...
It's a 10-minute, just like we usually do. It's a 10-minute.
So it'll only be 10 minutes before your class when we get back. So
okay, then I
maybe
think
now is a good time, just so you can
have
a little break in between.
Yeah, I was watching the time, and then right as you asked me, it was like we froze.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm ready whenever.
Go for it. Yeah. And make you big. There we go.
Hi. You don't have to. I don't have any of my physical books with me. But my name is Zara Hoffman. I'm a self-published author of 6 books, a young adult paranormal romance trilogy and a new adult sci-fi romance trilogy. I am a Ko-fi creator where I sell those books as signed paperbacks if you live in the US or Canada. If you are part of my VIP club tier for $8 a month, in your 4th month, you get a free signed paperback no matter where you live in the world. Otherwise, you can buy a signed nameplate. I have a outlining guide. It's a PDF, a Ko-fi guide for writers because it looks like a pretty visual creator platform, but you can still make money on there. I promise I have. And I have a Scrivener guide coming, but I do have Scrivener keyboard shortcut stickers that you can pre-order. And I have author services listed on there. And I was going to say tomorrow. I'm so used to saying today is the last day to get 8% off using the code feeling22. The number 22, but you spell out feeling. So yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. Well, we are going to take a 10-minute bio break, and then at some point, Zara will pop off to Zaraland to continue her wonderful education. Very important.
Final semester.
Woohoo! Yes. Education is important in every form.
Yeah.
So, and then when we come back, we will talk more about all of your questions about fixing, repairing. We will go into the meat and bones of this. And so give us your toughest, most challenging questions. We will be here for it. We'll see y'all back here.
All
right. Bye-bye. Maybe beep. Maybe beep. Maybe beep beep beep. Boom. Come out wherever you are.
Hello again.
Hello. Fancy meeting you here. It's just
So-
us chickens.
What?
It's just us chickens now. Ain't nobody here but us chickens. Ain't nobody here at all. Okay. So, what we were discussing during the break.
I think the real big part about how to fix things is more of understanding how.
No when to hold 'em.
Yep.
No when to fold 'em. No when to walk away. No when to run.
Yep. And so I figured maybe we should talk a little bit about the rubric.
Yes. Very nice. Alerted the relevant parties. The most important part. Yes, I saw Spence posted a picture of the bowl with the mac and cheese in it in our Discord server. Made me smile. So, yes. So, okay. Okay. So, this is the issue. There are a lot of plates to spin as an adult, metaphorically. And every person only has so much brain processing power to evaluate, analyze, and synthesize. There is a limit to the processing power any human brain is capable of before it starts overheating.
And how many decisions a day a person can comfortably make?
Each person and each day, it's unique how big that bucket is, how many decisions they can make in that given day, but it is finite. So that is what we are looking at when we essentially need to figure out a rubric or a system to evaluate, to make decisions like, should I throw this away? Should I repair it? Should I fix it? Should I hire a professional? Whatever it is, we need to accept the fact that our brains have finite capability on any given day. There is not exactly a hard and fast limit to the number of decisions you can make in a certain day, like as far as what your brain is capable of. But on an intuitive level, like there's only so many decisions, and at a certain point your brain's like, we are done for the day, and all we can do is sit there passively and watch TV or sleep. Like, most people have reached this by the time they're an adult. They've reached this situation a couple times minimum. So let us just accept this truth that all of our brains are only capable of a certain amount of analysis at any given day. And on top of that, we also have daily living. So we really don't live in a white box. We don't live in a sandbox where, all things being even, we can make these decisions. No, we are living in real time, and time moves in a linear fashion for us. So we have only a finite amount of time as well as mental capability. Also, let us accept, as part of our mathematical equation here, or rubric, perfection is a trap. It's not real. It is absolute fantasy that humans have constructed, and it exists nowhere in real time or space. So there is no perfect decision. There's no perfect conclusion to this problem, to whatever problem this problem is. There's no perfect or correct or 1000% right answer. There is only best answer for right now. And that we let go of the idea or the belief that we can make the perfect right answer that will always be right and never be wrong. Even 1,000 years from now, no one will criticize my decision. Throw it out the window. That is a fantasy. It is not real and is not based in reality that we all share in this, world. So What instead we're looking at is what is the best choice or decision to make given time and space and resources available. So, I will give you now an example, because that's how all maths go, is after you state, this are the parameters, now you need to come up with the process. You then give an example so people can start figuring it out on their own. Here it goes. I was in my early 20s, and everybody around me who liked to cook was saying, oh, you have to have Henkel knives. They're the best knives ever. Do you know how much in early 2000s money a Henkel knife, the simplest chef knife a Henkel sold at the time, not including shipping, $60 US. And that was the cheapest when they're on sale, y'all. When they're not on sale, they were like 80 to 100, still not including shipping. And I don't have that kind of money. I never had that kind of money. Even when I had that kind of money, I spent it on other things that I cared about, like my dog. So anyway. But, and I was like, okay, what is the closest thing I can get to the quality I'm told a Henkel knife is? Because everybody said you want a Henkel knife because they're so sharp. And if you have a properly sharpened knife, you won't cut yourself, or you're less likely to cause yourself grievous injury, which, of course, I like. Do you see these hands? They are not the prettiest hands, maybe, but I like all of them. I want all the fingertips to stay with me through my entire life, if possible. If not, so sorry to see you go. But this is the goal. Is no inadvertent surgeries. That's the goal. And also, this torso, not frequently stabbed, and I wanted to keep it that way. Certainly not self-inflicted injuries. So that was the goal. How do I do this when I can't afford a Henkel? And everyone was like, oh, there's some American knives, but they're not as good. And they're also still $20 to $40, way more than what's in my price range. And I thought, here's the issue. I don't have the money, but I need to not stab myself accidentally or accidentally lose a fingertip or something. I need quality, sharp knives that, within my price range. What is your price range, Glory? Y'all. My price range back then in early 2000s money was $3 to $10 max. And I needed a variety of knives because I also have the hand-eye coordination of a 3-year-old. This has been proven by scientists. So imagine trying to get a toddler to be able to chop celery without self-inflicted injuries. Okay? I was in a situation and could not afford quality knives. And I found at the Asian grocery stores in town, there's this brand called Kiwi. So I don't know, is it New Zealand? I couldn't tell at the time. And they're just in these boxes, and they're all, this whatever shape. It's different stuff, different grocery stores. And those knives, y'all, were 50 cents to $3. A few, the larger, heavier knives were $5 back then. Like some big old butchering knives. And they all come pre-sharpened. And they're straight blades, they're straight edges. So you can sharpen them yourself. I've never had success. This was before Tom. Before Tom did the research and learned how to properly, what is it?
How to use a whetstone?
How to use a whetstone. But the way my parents taught me, were not successful. Anyway. So I just thought, well, I'm not good at sharpening a knife. So I need a knife that I won't cry about when I throw it away. That was my theory. So I bought these Kiwi knives. And you know what? When it got dull, when it wasn't cutting and I noticed I started exerting force, I would wrap that baby up in a whole bunch of paper towel and then duct tape it and throw it in the trash because I didn't want to accidentally stab any garbage people. Or I'd use corrugated cardboard and wrap it up and duct tape that and give it a little coffin. Hello, Chandra. And again, throw it away because I didn't want any garbage people or anyone else to get accidentally stabbed with my old dull Kiwi knives. But that's what I did. A couple years later, Tom was like, I don't know why, but he was like, I want to figure out how to professionally sharpen knives. He had to do with a girl he wanted to date. Anyway, so Tom learned how to do that, started doing it with my Kiwi blades. And I was like, these are fantastic. And also, I am now saving so much money because I don't even have to buy replacements for these knives. These knives that cost a literal $1. So I could buy multiple ones. And then I didn't care if people used my knives and maybe didn't return my knives when we go out camping or we go to SCA events. I didn't cry because it cost me $1. It cost me $1. It cost me up to $3 for a couple of them. I didn't cry if somebody like did some weird things to my knives and I heard about it later. It was just like, dude, you don't get to borrow my knives next time. That was all. And it was no big deal. No big deal. That was my rubric for it. Is first off, I need essentially knives that when they get dull, I can throw away and not cry about the cost of, which could not happen with Henkel's or whatever the American equivalent was that somebody had told me at the time. That cost $20. It was just what is sharp now that is affordable now that I won't cry about throwing away later. Because I need functionality today. I don't care about, but I will save all these knives for one day when I meet a professional knife sharpener and I could just go, here's my box of dull knives. Y'all, I don't know when that's going to happen. I cannot live my life waiting and hoarding useless stuff. I got to just toss it and move on because I have finite space. This is the world we live in. That is the equation. So figuring out a rubric that works for you where you acknowledge the fact that you have limited brain processing power, as we all do. All of us, no matter how smart a person is, at a certain point, they will reach a certain point in their day where they're like, my brain is done. I cannot even decide what I will eat anymore. Other people need to make these decisions for me. Every person, even Einstein, even people that, you're told have impossibly high IQs, every person will reach this point. It's just when they reach it, maybe different points of the day or different reasons that they reach it. But it is possible of every human brain because the human brain only has so much processing power, especially before overheating, which is a real issue. So, again, I just want to point out, we need to accept that perfect is not a decision we can make. You can't make a decision that will always be perfect. It's just what is the best decision for right now. So what is functional for me now? Not what will be functional a week from now, or a month, or a year, or 10 years, or 20 years. That is for future you to worry about. Present you needs to figure out in every decision what is the most functional answer right now. Because that is the moment you are living in, and you are living in no other moment. So, I used to have an issue with buttons would pop off my shirt. Not like all the time, but like, let's be honest. If you have a chest, you know what I'm talking about, where there's like one place the buttons get stressed. And that is more likely to be the one where even the button gets loose first. And you can say to yourself, I'm going to save this and I will fix the button. And then you start noticing a pile of 3 or more pieces of fabric of shirts that pile up that you still haven't fixed. And it's been more than a week. And you can even say, well, maybe I'll teach one of my children how to change that button, how to fix the button. You could say to that child, hey, go find a YouTube video on how to sew on buttons and then see about fixing this shirt. See if you can do it. See what you think. Do you hate it or love it? And if they do it and they hate it, throw out all your other shirts that need buttons changed. Other than that, or you're going to have to do it. And does it make you miserable to fix the buttons? Because if it makes you miserable, is it worth it? This world is already exhausting and hard. It is difficult. It is dystopian. And if fixing buttons or fixing buttonholes or whatever rips in your shirt, if that makes you sad or miserable, why are you oppressing yourself? You're just internalizing the oppression of our oppressors. There is no need for it. Move on. Okay, so you have a little burial ceremony for this shirt you love that you're just never going to find the time and energy to fix the rip. Okay, move on. Have the burial ceremony. Say something nice about it. Put dirt on it. Bury it. Monthly mending is so satisfying. Yeah, there's some people who really love it.
And for all you know, one of your friends enjoys it.
But if you don't have that resource in your life, feeling bad or beating yourself up mentally about this every time you see that pile of clothes that are never going to get fixed, because it's certainly been more than a week or a month since you meant to do it, is not worth the exhaustion and trouble. It is about what is functional today. Tomorrow will have to solve itself. Tomorrow we'll have to figure out what is functional for tomorrow when it becomes today. I'm going to say it again. Tomorrow we'll figure out what is functional for tomorrow when it becomes today. Is it today? Is that problem here yet? Don't worry about it. Because that is the most important thing about all of this maintenance and repair and when to fix it and when not. So we had a situation several years ago. We were living in another house. It was a rental as well. The dishwasher barely worked when we moved in. It definitely did not work within 3 months. And the owner told me they were not in a place financially themselves to repair or replace the dishwasher. And we certainly weren't in a financial place. I hated washing those dishes. It was the worst sink ever. It was the tiniest sink ever. I could not wash my dachshund, my miniature dachshund. That's small. That's really small. That's bizarrely small. So I realized how miserable I was. First thing I did was research that exact make and model dishwasher to see, is this a problem we can fix ourselves? I looked at the manual. I looked up bulletin boards, forums, people talking about the same problems. And the answer was, no, this is a fatal error. This is a fatal flaw in this dishwasher. It will never work. We tried a few more theories just to see. We learned that you can change the front of a dishwasher color-wise. Like it actually had storage and you could actually change the color and stuff. We learned all sorts of things about this dishwasher that the owner, the landlord, had previously lived there and did not know about this dishwasher.
Funnily, the other side of the front panel matched the color in the kitchen.
Yeah, I'm like, what was this? Anyway. So, since we could not resolve the dishwasher problem, I then looked online of how much is a replacement dishwasher. Are there any very small dishwashers? I had seen, you know how most dishwashers have 2 levels? I had seen 1-level dishwashers in some people's homes in California when we had visited. And they had told me that they were surprisingly affordable. They were still out of my price range. But that was how I found countertop dishwashers. And at the time, a countertop dishwasher that other people's reviews swore could even clean pots and pans and had a hookup to your sink, like to the faucet.
Yeah, it didn't require plumbing it or anything.
Right, yeah, because that was like, we weren't ready for that level. Was literally $200 in 2012, 2013 money.
Mm-hmm.
And that was after shipping. And we did save up. It took us a couple months. We saved up that and we bought it and it was wonderful. And I no longer dreaded coming home to dirty dishes every day. Granted, it was only 1 level. And so essentially we'd have to run it twice at night to do a whole load of dishes. Still made me happier than the alternative of having to hand wash in this incredibly tiny sink all of these dishes, because everything else about this kitchen I loved, it's just whoever replaced the sink belongs in a circle of hell. So, and I know who it is, and there's in my mind, I've already consigned it. So, again, we're looking at good, better, best evaluation, and how will you deal with it? Because it was the dish problem was affecting my mental health, we had to find other solutions. I was about ready to start hiring somebody to come in once or twice a month and just wash dishes. Like, it's not like I had a ton of money, but yeah, I will give you $25 to wash dishes till, you know, your time is up and you just stop where you are and you go and you come back in 2 weeks and I give you another $25. Like, that's where I was. So at $50 a month, we saved up to, it took us 4 months. So we had enough for the dishwasher. And that's what we went with. But again, it's evaluating and analyzing the problem. And how important is it? How much are you willing to devote to finding any solution rather than your perfect solution? Spence says, that's what my dishwasher was. It died. Mr. Spence is kind of looking for a new one, but I'm pretty over it breaking my sink every 3 months anyway. Mood. So these are the things to think about. Like with the knives, again, I placed a priority on the knives because even though I didn't have the money to buy supposedly the most available, I was like, still want to keep all the fingertips I can. Still don't want to accidentally, you know, cut my hand or accidentally partially stab myself. So I need to find a solution that's safe for me, which means I need to find what is the sharpest knife I can afford right now and that I can essentially consistently afford to replace and go with that. So, because it's important to, you know, not have medical bills just for cooking, ideally, when possible. So that is what like our sort of overriding principle for figuring out, do we need to repair this? Do we need to call a professional? Do we need to replace this? Throw it out? And also, how much time and energy is worth putting into maintaining this device or this clothing or whatever? Because let's be honest, I agree with Marie Kondo about, does it bring you joy? Do you love this thing or do you feel sad when you see it? Sherry says, when I lived with my mom, she had an old washing machine and wanted me to wash my own clothes. I took my pile of clothes to the dry cleaners and it cost $16 for a whole month's worth. Yes, exactly. We'll never spend the whole Sunday doing the wash and hoping that it's sunny. Yeah. When I was living in a different place and I had a bit more finances, not a whole lot more, but I had a little bit more. When I was living in the house that only had part of a roof, and you could just literally, when it was windy, you could literally see dust fall from the ceiling, like onto my bed and stuff. So number one, yes, I did make my bed every day just to keep all that stuff out of the sheets so I wasn't rolling around in it. But also, like, I felt the need to wash my comforters and my bed coverings at least once a month because, again, you know, covered in old house. So because my washing machine, while it was an extra large washing machine tub and the dryer, it was not large enough to wash my king size blankets and comforters. And is at that point that I would go to a laundromat and I would wash those. But I was spending so much time there. And because of they're never air conditioned or heated. And often people are running around. A lot of kids are running around. It's also a time suck. So it's not like I could even study there. And I was in college at the time. And I realized, like, how much is my time and money worth? I took my hamper of like 3 blankets to one of those bundle services at a laundromat. And I asked, could you give me a price estimate? How much would it cost to wash and dry these? And she told me this was, again, I want to point out, this was early to mid 2000s money. She said, it's like $3.50 per blanket. And for like some comforters, it can be up to $5 if it has a duvet. And I'm like, none of my comforters have like a covering. They're just comforters. She's like, oh, then like $3.50. I was like, for king size? She's like, yes. So that was $10.50 to not have to spend 2.5 to 3 hours at the laundromat. Yes, it was worth my time to just give her the hamper and then come back the next day or up to a week later, depending on something like exam schedule. She knew, like, I'll be there, I'll pay ahead, but like, yeah, I can't always show up in time because with my work schedule. And it was worth all of that of $10.50, so I don't have to devote all that time schlepping the hamper, because she would come out to the car and grab it. And she'd wash it, dry it, she'd fold it. It was so fluffy. It was so nice. She'd fluff it extra. And yeah, that was definitely worth. Plus, I could also give her everything else and not have to worry about it, not have Mount Washmore stressing me out, distracting me, and dealing with that mental gymnastics. It was worth it, and I could afford that. So, figuring out how to live less stressed is so important. I think a lot of people don't realize that they are already very stressed, because humans are kind of like, I'm going to bring it up, and I know some of y'all don't like the thing, but I'm quoting Mark Twain on this. I'm quoting Samuel Clemens. How do you boil a frog? You put the frog in a pot of tap water or well water, and then you turn the heat on, and the temperature keeps increasing, but the frog doesn't jump. Humans are kind of like that too. Hello, CB. That we get acclimated to a certain level of stress, and as long as it's holding steady, we don't notice it as much, but in the back of our brain, we are noticing. It is affecting the quality of our sleep. It's affecting the quality of our health. We don't have as much time to do whatever we want.
Hold on real quick. A&P class.
Okay.
6 weeks. That is your body and brain's concept of normal and average. Whatever is the last 6 weeks. So if you want to get any new habits going, you need to do more than 6 weeks. And it will become in your body, be like, okay, this is just what we do. But until it's had 6 weeks, it'll consider it something different.
Mm-hmm.
But the same goes, though, for all these stressors. If you've had those stressors for more than 6 weeks, your brain offhand will just go, isn't this what our normal is like? Isn't it always this stressful? Aren't we always this overwhelmed?
So it's about figuring out what is, in the moment at least, really stressing you out.
Sort of, CB, sort of.
So where we're currently living, at one point, this was a couple years ago, the dishwasher stopped working correctly. Like, it technically was working. It was cleaning nothing. Something was wrong. And also it wasn't draining properly. So there was definitely something not going well. And it wasn't getting fixed anytime soon. And I just was already super stressed with work and things going on in my life. And I was just like, I just need, when I come home, to not see overflowing dishes in the sink. And Tom was like, how can I help? What can we do? I was like, I literally need to just not see. It's not like I want to deny the existence of dirty dishes in life. It's not that. It's just, I just cannot quite mentally cope. So I need you to not look at me funny when I put all the dirty dishes in a tote and cover it literally with a blanket and hide it for till the weekend when I have time to wash the dishes. I just need you to not say anything to me about this. And just, this is how I'm coping. Please don't be weird about it. And Tom was like, no problem. I'll help you find the tote. And we put all the dirty dishes in, I think it actually was 2 totes. Stacked them up, covered them with a blanket, shoved them in the corner. No one who came to the house that week even suspected a thing. They thought it was like a table or something, or a piece of furniture or something. And that Sunday, when I had time to actually scrub everything and wash everything and deal with it, that's what I did all day, and I felt fine. I mean, yeah, I had to take breaks because my back hurt. But, it was what I needed to not lose my mind that week. It was what I needed. And what I'm trying to illustrate is, you need to think about what is stressing you out. So I kind of have a little experience with this, because In Judaism, we have this thing called Passover. And at the Seder, as we are reciting the Haggadah, we are meant to ask ourselves and each other this question of, a pharaoh is not always what we think of, like a villain in our life. Sometimes a pharaoh is a situation or a want that is not getting fulfilled. So let us ask ourselves, in the past year, what is our pharaoh or pharaohs? And it has made me more aware of what is stressing me, what is causing, like, when they talk about the straw that broke the camel's back, what is pushing me too far? Some years it has been, my bed is so uncomfortable. There's literally a sprung spring, and it's literally causing bruises on my ribs. And like that I had put up with for 8 months. And then went, holy cow, why am I living this way? At the very least, let me dig into this mattress and get this spring out. It is actually hurting me. That's not good. Nobody should have bruised ribs for any reason. Also, that's horrible. So it has made me more keenly aware of, think about what is oppressing you. Because even though it's our thoughts, technically, that are where we notice our oppression, because you'll notice what your stress thoughts are. Everyone will see this house, or people will see the stains on my clothes, or they will hear my car coming before I come around the corner, or whatever is stressing you. And then ask yourself, are there any solutions? You could fantasize about what are the perfect solutions, and then you could start fantasizing about what are more real solutions. It is super fun to play the fantasy of, what would I do if I won the lottery? But then after you play that game, how about while you're driving home or when you have time to think thoughts, bathroom, that you instead think about what are more realistic solutions, including just put the dishes in a tote and cover it with a blanket until you can deal with it. And just use paper plates all week. Like, just, you know what? If you don't mention it, maybe no one else will mention it when they come over. So, or you could just say, hey, we're having picnic night. Like that. Of what are my thoughts that I'm getting stressed about? You cannot necessarily solve families where like a family member is stressing you out so much, but there are good, better, best solutions for, maybe put your phone on do not disturb certain hours of the day so you can wind down at night, which means, yes, you miss calls from them. Oh, well. Or maybe it is that you talk to other people about, do you think terrible thoughts when you hear my car coming a half mile away? And essentially finding out if your friends are thinking terrible thoughts or not. Maybe they are, and maybe they are willing to help you find a mechanic who could find a solution. But they didn't want to say that because you didn't ask. Who knows? But think about, what are your pharaohs? And think about then, are there any realistic solutions? Or what are even kind of off-ball solutions? What are the wildest solutions within the reality we live in? So there's no magic wand, and there's no lottery ticket winnings. But what are like some off-the-wall, oh gosh, I would never admit to actually solving that problem that way. But it would solve it. Because once you start getting creative about your solutions, I think number one, you may find the problems are not quite so stressful. Number two, you don't feel quite so much like a victim of your circumstances in life. And you may find that you enjoy fixing your problems, because some problems are as easy to fix as a screwdriver and a 5-minute YouTube video. But how will you know if you don't start letting your mind wander about the million ways to solve this problem? I have once fantasized, a few times actually, about moving to another house to no longer have to deal with rattly doorknobs. It was just a fantasy that I waxed on often. But once I realized that part of the problem was whoever installed these doorknobs was not using the correct screws, and that all I had to do was buy a pack of Phillips head screws of all sizes, for like less than I think it was like less than $8, and just literally unscrew one of the rattly screws in the door, and then go through this box till I found just the right size, and then go through the house and fix all the screws one at a time. And sure, it took me a couple weeks to actually get to all the doorknobs, both sides, and replace all the screws, because I did it one at a time, because I didn't want to take apart the door, because the doorknob, that would be bad. But just, one at a time. And then they never made another rattly sound. No matter how many times my cat would jump up, turn the doorknob, and let the door swing open so she could get in. I just hated that rattle sound, it turned out. I didn't hate that the cat had figured out how to open doors. That was not my problem, because I actually found, like, you know what? That's a much better solution than having to install a cat door in every interior door in this house. Ugh. Like, so good for her. Good for her that she's solving her own problems too. But the problem was, when she was doing that, she was loosening already the wrong screw. All these screws were too small for the holes, and they were loosening up. Hello. So, for my sanity, all I had to do was spend a couple weeks, whenever I had a little time, and replace the screws one at a time, 3 per side of the door. So 6 per door. And there were a lot of doors in this house. A lot. Because this is the house that was like renovated again and again. Anyway, that was a whole nother matter. So it's about just starting to fantasize, how would you solve it in these wild ways, and then coming into what actually sounds like I kind of might want to try that. I'm not saying every problem has an easy and quick solution, but you are definitely capable of finding a variety of solutions, and sometimes you may just hit the jackpot and find a solution that fits your ways and means. So that is like the rubric of how I evaluate how to go about finding solutions. What is the problem? What is the ideal solution? What is the reasonable solution? Can I start finding a solution that kind of resembles the reasonable solution?
And again, develop friendships with professionals. Something else is that I find a lot of people, as they're, getting into the adult world, don't know about is that with anything that requires a professional, handyman, repair work, all that kind of stuff, you can ask them for an estimate first of what would it take and what are you going to fix for this problem to, be taken care of. And the estimate often is free. They may charge if they need to come to your home to do it, essentially their travel fee. But the actual looking at a device, looking at something to figure out how much is it going to cost to repair, that's just part of doing work as a professional. Because you can get this from multiple professionals to find out how much they would charge to fix this. And then going with the one you like best. May not necessarily be the cheapest or the most expensive, but the one you liked their solution for. And professionals know this. So, never be afraid to just ask, how would you fix this? What would be your solution and how much would it cost? And that would better give you a sense of, is that something you want to handle yourself, or do you want them to handle? We now have YouTube to just see, how does that work actually look? What kind of skills does it take? Plumbing work with, a solder and a torch is a, skill set most of us don't have. So yeah, maybe you're going to need a professional for that. But, simple things like changing out an electrical socket and just knowing how to flip off the switch at your circuit breaker before you replace it. for most people is a relatively simple job, especially if you watch a video on it first of how someone else does it. And it doesn't really require a professional to do, but it will make your life a lot easier, because believe me, a worn out light socket, electrical socket, where the plug keeps falling out because it can no longer hold it anymore, is a frustration that will ruin almost any joy you have left in life. And it doesn't take much. It's relatively low cost. But again, is this something you can do, or is something you need a professional for? And, as much as I say it's an easy job to do, it's not for everyone. Some people, definitely have some, reasonable concerns about anything involving electricity. And I understand when they're like, no, I need someone else to do that. All right, go start a relationship with some professionals and see, who, doesn't charge much, or a handyman. There's a lot of handyman people who can do, simple electrical work at a very reasonable rate. Because the less stressed you are, the more functional you are, the more you're able to do. Stress really is the mind killer. Fear, just like fear, it ruins your capacity to do everything else. So don't look at it as something insurmountable. Just look at it as, it may not be immediately addressable, but I can get to it later. Let me, make some notes that I can find later. But when I got energy, I can go look it up. And that, helps a lot too. Oh, that is nice. Having a family member who's a joiner. Shelves properly sized for the height of a person is a joy most people don't realize they're missing out on.
Yeah, this one size fits all situation now with prefab cabinets.
Yeah, again, it's a big problem. Like, if you've ever had a major spark and an electrical socket is now blackened, you need to get that replaced. That is now an electrical hazard that can eventually cause a fire.
Also, I can't tell you how many apartments I have gone to where there were sockets, outlets that had no plate covering. There's a couple issues with that, including just your electric bill, or your heating bill, really, because you're looking at drafts with that, straight up. Like, I guarantee, if there's no plate on there, you will have drafts, which will increase your heating and cooling bill. And I have had people remark of even just putting 2 outlet plates on. And again, these outlet plates cost 50 cents to $1 US. The price may have gone up since I last purchased one 5 years ago, but it's, it's soda money. I've had people remark that even just putting 2 plates on in a room has notably adjusted the temperature in a room. Like, it's no longer always cold in the winter and always hot in the summer. It's, more like the rest of the house of like, yeah, it is a serious draft issue. And that is something that people can do themselves. Like, I mean, really, the outlet plates are so inexpensive. Many of them come with screws, or they have the screws right next to the plates with the right size. And second, you just buy them. Yes, I am buying 4 screws. That sort of, and they're like, okay, well, it's 3 whole cents for 4. Like that's the hardware store life. So again, these things are absolutely doable. It's just
another one that, most people don't realize the effect it has is when your a sink drips, or some water outlet. But again, it's one of those things that how to fix it is not necessarily intuitive to how you would think. And that's actually why I just posted again the link for C. Jane Drill. She is a professional contractor and repair person. And she also goes over like the little bits of like, how do you repair a sink? How do you repair a faucet so it stops leaking? It's not always what you think it is. It's usually not a very expensive one, but it does require a little bit of know-how. But that little water drip does actually go through a lot of water over the course of a month. So if you're paying for your own water, it can add up.
Yeah, Cherry talking about like with the hood being put down so low. I have been in a couple houses like that. And granted, like it was originally put in for a person who maybe was very short. And so it was sized for them. They didn't need to worry about, having accommodations for people of who are taller. But, that person's long gone. And now, seriously, there's a couple houses where I walked in and I was like, I would feel like I was trying to cook at one of those children's little stove kitchen sets. You know what I'm talking about? Like, how can you see when the hood is at eye level? You cannot see safely what you are necessarily doing. You might accidentally touch the flame, touch a hot saucepan, all sorts of dangers, accidentally knock the pan. It's dangerous. And I just sometimes really wonder of like, you all know you can like put spacing underneath the stove and lift it up, right? You know that's a thing. So it's just, some of this is about safety. Some of this is out of our control. It just depends. But you do not have to be oppressed by your environment. It is not just, well, this is my life now, and everywhere is terrible. Like I promise you that even though your brain may tell you that, brains lie. Brains lie sometimes, particularly stressed brains, depressed brains. They fib. They're big old fibbers. They'll convince you that they're right, and they are not. You do not need to be oppressed or made miserable by the environment you live in, by the situations you're dealing with, even though, yeah, some situations you can immediately change, like a toxic boss or something. There are still within your ability little things you can adjust to not be quite as miserable all the dang time. And you are definitely worth it. You are worth that little bit of extra trouble, whether we're talking about replacing face plates or you know what? Just removing the hood till you move out. Whatever you need to do to be less miserable and be safer, that's what's important. You're important. If you're watching this still, I promise you're worth the effort.
Real quick, though, CB did bring up a good point of, yes, British electrical systems are different than American in 2 or 3 distinct qualities. So if you are looking at electrical stuff, go find out someone from your country who's talking about how to work on this. Because Britain is actually, their electrical systems heavily influenced on how to recover quickly post-World War II and the bombing. And that their electrical system had several different necessities because of that.
It's a wild ride. I've watched
So, yeah, it's quite different than American. And yeah, both the voltage and the frequency is different for American electricity than British, but the way they wire things up is also different. And that's why it's, go find, like if you are in, a British system, or if you are in South America, go find someone on YouTube who's doing electrical and there. Same with plumbing, find a local area.
Sometimes local libraries actually have very useful books that are specific to your country and your electrical system, because like Japan actually has 2 different voltage systems depending on which side of the country you're in. Again, that's a wild documentary, but still actually quite enjoyable to watch. Go if you need to. If you can't find anything specific to what you're dealing with in your part of your country, you may want to check your local library or even a local tech school or vocational school, because sometimes they may not allow you to check out the book since you're not a student there, but they often will allow you to photocopy relevant section. For like, not doing like full wiring, but like a little fixing something like, hey, I need to replace this one outlet, because mice, y'all. Because mice are the devil and will chew anything. And so, it just depends. But again, not professional advice here on how to live your life or how to change your own electrical work. So, but just something to keep in mind. There's a lot of electrical talk in the chat.
I've done a lot of that too. So it's like, it is also part of just computer stuff.
Yeah, if the cabinet above the stove vent doesn't have a vent leading out, odds are it isn't in the wall and the vent does very little. Yes.
Its main purpose, when it doesn't have its own ventilation system, though, is for the oil that goes with the steam over from the stuff you're cooking, so it doesn't go onto your ceiling and accumulate oil there.
Did you know that it is pretty stinky and potentially a health hazard to not clean out the grease trap? And you can actually are in danger of having a fire hazard, not cleaning out the grease trap for years. So if you are in a rental that has one of those non-venting hoods and you know you've never cleaned that grease trap,
That filter, that
probably
that
no
metal
one
filter
else
it has,
either. But guess what? More than likely, somebody online has posted the instructions on how to remove it and clean it. And you don't like necessarily, most of the time you don't replace it because it's metal. You
Yeah.
actually, they'll tell you like specifically what to wash it in, follow those directions, and then how to dry it, how long you need to make sure till it's dry, and then how to reinstall it so that you don't have a fire hazard.
although, you know, if you want to, just run the dishwasher on its own. It will degrease it.
So I just want to point that out. Yeah, it's catching grease, which is useful. But if you've never cleaned that trap, and you do need to clean that trap at least once a year, it is collecting the grease. And then that is old oxidized rancid grease, which is so much more flammable than fresh grease. And so it gets really exciting. I just wanted to mention that nobody asked, but I'm just saying. But anyhow, was there anything else, Tom?
Again, the other part I liked about earlier when I posted that link to Project Farm on YouTube, where he tests not only like equipment, but he also does test oils and cleaners and other things, is you'll again see it's not necessarily the cheapest or the most expensive that actually works the best for this, but you'd be surprised the difference a good lubricant or cleanser makes in not taking as much time to do a job as a very poor quality one, where things will break down faster. It's harder to clean stuff, especially gunky stuff, off. Like, it helps to find the stuff that works. Like, that is where it is useful to go find. I mean, if nothing else, you just literally just find a video of his that's on something you're looking for, whether it's a tool or a cleanser or what, and just go all the way to the end, and he'll break down what he's figured out and what's the best one over for costs and, what he would probably use on, in his farm. But yeah, I do find those videos interesting because you really can't trust what people write on their stuff anymore. Like, just because someone even says that it follows mil-spec requirements does not mean it actually meets military specification requirements as stated.
Or like I've seen plenty of clothing labels that say dry clean only, but I look at the fabric, I look up what the manufacturer of the fabric says. They are not saying this is dry clean only. And checking, because you can actually check like on an inside seam, like I was like, is it because of the thread they used? It did not appear to be, because there are people online who will help you, understand to evaluate, is this thread, for instance, sensitive to water? No, a lot of clothing manufacturers of a certain price range will put dry clean only on their clothing so that they don't have to deal with people washing their clothing against what the label they would put on. It's something to be concerned about. So, especially given the environmental problems with dry cleaning, as well as it turns out there may be health issues with the chemicals used in dry cleaning when people wear frequently dry cleaned clothing. It is something to be aware of. Listen to your intuition a little bit. If you're like, this feels like my regular fabric, do a little research. What kind of fabric is this? And also, what kind of thread was used in the seams? If you are spot checking and everything seems fine, it may be appropriate to hand wash. It's more about being more curious about your own environment and seeing if there are things you can do versus just having to deal with what you have and that's all you have. So what I would honestly recommend as far as the best approach is to be as curious as you can about your own environment of, is there any way that I could make this place a little bit more enjoyable to live in? Is there anything I could upgrade? Is there anything I could improve? Is there, like, what would make me happier here? And just using a little mental energy to think about it, at least from a thought experiment point of view.
Yeah, that's actually what reminded me earlier about the RAM upgrades. That is just because a lot of people will mostly actually more could just complain about their computer and the problems they're having. And I'll ask, how old is it and what they're doing on it? And often it's not that the computer's very old. It's just what they're doing on it needs more play space to hold everything. And that's what your RAM is. And it's like, yeah, you just don't have enough. We can, let me check on it. We can upgrade it. It, will take a few minutes. And usually, even as a professional, the whatever you call it, the charges for my time is minimal. Like, it's still, less than $100 upgrade. But all of a sudden, since they use their computer all the time, it's no longer a stress as they're waiting for it to shuffle things around so they can work on what they need to. Of like, yeah, just look at what is it that's stressing you out, though, and so what can you do? What's the amazing thing you could do, but also what are the other possibilities you might have that might change this?
Or if you're like, I don't feel stressed, then the question I ask myself is, what's using up my time in the maintenance department? Like dishes. What's using up my time? Dishes require maintenance, don't they? They get dirty, they need to get washed, then dried, then put away, then used, then washed, then dried, and then put away, then used. So, and I'm just using that as an example of what's using up your time. The little bit of free time you have. Is there anything that could be adjusted? And again, using that curiosity and that thought experiment of, well, what if I never had to wash another dish again? Or what if I never had to vacuum again? Would I feel any different? Or would I feel sad that I don't ever have to vacuum again? I know people who genuinely love to vacuum or wash dishes or scrub baseboards. I'm not among those people, but I've met people who tell me how much they genuinely love to scrub baseboards. And I respect that. So asking yourself, thinking about how your time is spent, and what if you never had to do that chore or that activity again? How would you feel? Would you be happier? Would you spend your time doing something you enjoy? Would you just watch more TV? It will help you understand what has room for improvement and what parts of where you're spending your time, or your time budget, so to speak, is being spent exactly the best way possible. Because if you are somebody who genuinely loves, for instance, washing dishes or baseboards or vacuuming, you definitely don't want to take that away by automating it or changing how you handle something, because that will lower your quality of life. But how will you know? Till you ask yourself, how will you know? Where is there room for improvement if you're not willing to ask yourself these questions and give yourself the thinking time to explore it? You'll always get what you've always had if you always do what you've always done. I know many people who think, well, I'm okay. It's not like I cry every night, so I'm fine. Are you? Is that the best you could hope for your life? Because just judging your life by, well, I don't cry every night is not the same as I cheerfully go to bed and then I cheerfully wake up every day and I look forward to that day. I love living my life. I look forward to all the major aspects. There's a couple things that I don't love, but I don't hate. And so I'm happy to do them because to get them done, to go on to the things that I love doing. Like, it is a normal part of human psychology to genuinely feel happiness and joy at various moments in every day. Not that you feel joy the whole day, unbroken. That's not normal. That may be mania. But that you feel moments of joy and happiness and mindfulness and curiosity. It's normal to feel all those feelings throughout every day. This is one of the things I have actually had a challenge trying to get my students to understand. It is not normal to feel just a teensy bit sad all day, every day. What is a teensy bit sad? It's called boredom. Boredom is like the first tiny rung of sadness. That is not normal. It is not normal. That is not normal for the human brain. So you may not be so miserable you're crying every night, which, yay, I'm glad. That's not cool. But you may not still actually be enjoying life. And you are capable of enjoying life. And you are also entitled to enjoy life. Because, y'all, people sometimes tell me they look at golden retrievers and think, gosh, I wish I could be that happy and joyful every day. And it's like, yeah, humans are wired to be capable of being just as happy and joyful on a regular basis as golden retrievers. So if you're not, at the very least, be familiar with why you're not. And there are some things that may be currently out of your control, but probably not every single aspect of your life is entirely out of your control. And at least you can do that. Again, that's not going to change your whole life. You're not going to suddenly be living the life of a princess or something. But there are things you can do. So, why, yes, I am discussing, starting a revolution in your own personal life. Do I look sad? Am I apologizing for that? No.
All right. I think that's just about everything.
Have we covered everything you wanted to cover about maintenance and repair? Zen in the art of fixing what you can and
not being upset about throwing stuff away.
Does it make you feel sad and burdened that it is broken or useless and you cannot make that better? Does that make you feel sad? Do you feel a little... Toss it. Can you live without it living in your life? And it makes you sad? Toss it or give it away. But it's such a nice shirt. And someone I love gave it to me. But I hate how I look in it. My dear, it is time to give it to someone else. And if you cannot find an actual human being willing to take it, in most towns or the next town over, there is often a charity willing to accept these. And just know that it is going to a good cause. And the good cause may be they're selling it to a cotton recycler, but who cares? You don't ever have to look at it again. You giving it away or throwing it away does not lessen the love it was given to you with. You have now received the love, and now it is just a husk. It is a husk. You can get rid of it. What I've done with some of my students is, if you're like, this probably should be thrown away, but I can't be sure if it should be, the answer is it's probably a little bit later and you're getting a little tired. Put it by the trash, and tomorrow morning, see what you think. It may just, like a cat, you just pop it right in the trash. So put it in a, like, it helps if, like, by your trash you have some place you can put things, so they have 24 hours to live on this little spot before poop, it goes in the trash, or boop, it goes back to its home. And so what if at the beginning you're not that good at this game? So what? Keep trying it. You will get better at the next day being able to evaluate, should this go in the trash or not? But if it is making you feel miserable, if you feel burdened by it, or you just don't enjoy it and it's not useful to you, it needs to leave that house, either in the charity bag or the trash bag. It needs to go. Because ain't nobody got time for that. But again, that holding pattern can be useful for people. Hello, Charlie.
Because, yeah, I feel like that's one of the things that is often a hang up, is that, do I need to keep or throw it away? And when you're stressed, you've already got less, decision-making ability to begin with. And so it can really be a holdup. So yes, put it somewhere where you can decide one way or the other, and it'll be something you see early in the day. And that'll really help, you along with those little decisions of, should I keep or get rid of?
There are plenty of places, and not just like some big nameless charity, but like if it's like stationary items that you're like, I really am hoarding this, you can give those to schools. A lot of schools, particularly middle grade schools, very happily will accept all sorts of stationary stuff. Used pencils will happily accept used, pencils, partial rolls of washi tape, will happily accept it. If not them, various churches, Sunday schools will happily accept these, gently loved art supplies. There's plenty of places. If we are talking about some, nice clothing that you're just like, no. Sometimes daycares need like dress up clothes and things. It may be useful to talk to your local friends about, hey, I've got this thing, whatever it is, I've got stuff. Anybody have an idea of somebody who needs this, whether we're talking schools or there's most universities have a professional clothing closet available to students who need nice professional clothing for going on job interviews and internships. And so if we're talking about your work clothes, your nice office clothes, or your church Sunday clothes, often those places will be happy to accept it, especially if you are, on either end of the sizing spectrum. Very tall, very short.
Same for shelters.
Very large. Yes. Again, are very happy to accept, particularly essentially if you are, size clothing wise, an outlier, no matter your gender, are always in need of those. It's just something to be aware of like, you can, these items that maybe are not so bad to trash them, but you don't love, or they're just filling up your closet, or you just don't have space for them and you don't want to wear them. There are plenty of places that would be happy to accept them. Maybe you're like me and from your childhood, you have an obnoxious collection of stuffed animals that you no longer need. You would be surprised. All sorts of places that would be happy to take it, and they'll redistribute these things. And you don't have to feel like, I'm just filling landfills with stuffed animals or whatever. That they're going to children, or there's, shelters or things that can use these things. I understand that I don't want to just trash all this or say that 25 to 30% of my life is trash. I wish it would have a second life with someone else, but I don't know how to find these people. You don't have to look hard. You don't have to work hard to find that. But you do need to get this stuff out of your life. It is just filling it up. And it means that you can't accept things that will be useful and effective and loved in your life.
Yeah.
So if you can't bear to throw it away, perhaps donating it would be a way to still get it out of your house.
And if you have like if you have a family member who passes and you're like, what am I going to do with this house of stuff and all that type? The easiest answer is go call up a couple of your local storage unit facilities
Mm-hmm.
and ask them who if there are any charities that will pick up from them when they have storage units that, you know, have to get emptied. And they'll usually tell you like which ones will actually come to the, you know, because they're not going to spend anything on getting rid of all this stuff, but it costs to actually dump out a storage unit.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, they'll tell you like which charities will actually come and take everything, and will also come, you know, to houses and help you deal with all this stuff that you're like, I don't need this.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, there's someone though.
Yeah. So I think what it is it's important to get rid of the things that don't bring you joy or love or happiness. And yes, it is possible to have clothing that you look forward to putting on every day, no matter your size. I promise you. I've had several people tell me, no, that sounded like a fairy tale. But I promise you, I've worked with so many people about this. Of, again, a few people that were almost 7 feet tall, and some people that were quite small or quite large or quite tiny. And I've assured every one of them, it is absolutely possible to look forward to getting dressed every day. That is a real thing. It will probably take you a little bit of work. First, you have to make room by getting rid of all the things that don't work for you. And I have been in a situation, both myself and with other friends and students, where you cannot get rid of all of the things that don't bring you joy at once, because a whole closet doesn't bring you joy, but you still need clothes to go to work in every day. So you do it in stages. All right. So the most hated things have to go first. The things that most remind you of people who've been horrible to you, they have to go first. Okay. And then, and we do it in stages. As you get more clothes, we can then start removing more clothes that don't like make you feel happy and joyful and loved. And we do it in stages. It's still possible, but like, it's not just clothing you can do this with. It's literally everything. I've had people who are like, every part of my living room makes me feel sad and depressed, but I cannot like get rid of all my furniture at once. There'll be nothing in my living room. And I'm like, legitimate problem. That's okay. We'll do this in stages. You will feel better after every stage. And that is something every one of you is capable of. And I want for every one of you to not look at a single thing in your house and feel miserable or sad or just a little, no. And I know that feeling because I once had a mother too. But anyway, it is entirely possible to look at every single thing in your home and smile because you like it, because it reminds you of happy moments and no sad moments. And it fits and it doesn't hurt when you use it. It doesn't feel uncomfortable. It always feels great and wonderful. That is entirely possible. It just takes a little bit of effort. And honestly, you can do it in stages. And I'd recommend honestly doing it in stages because you don't, like, if you do it all at once, it's like, was this a mania? Was this a manic episode? You know, like, are you going to have remorse later of, oh, I didn't mean to throw that out? Versus if you do it in stages, you're far less likely to experience remorse later. Like, I really needed a couch. Like, yes, first you need to make sure you have, like, you know, the couch you want to get. You've got the resources to get that couch. You've also got the way to get the couch to you, whether you're renting a van or paying the furniture company to deliver, whatever, you know, that you've got a plan before. You're not just rashly acting. I can't tell you how many people I know that their Pharaoh is their couch. Like, it is amazing how many people, at least in South Mississippi, genuinely feel miserable every time they sit on their couch. Like, y'all, holy cow. I'm not saying that of any of y'all because I don't know. I don't know that I've ever had a conversation with any of y'all backstage or anywhere about your sofas, your couches, your seating furniture. But in South Mississippi, a lot of people seem to be miserable on their furniture. It is not necessary. I promise. So, yes, Charlie points out in her neighborhood, some people just leave stuff out on their yards. Yes. It is. Because you got to find some way to get it out. But you don't want strangers knowing where you live necessarily. I think that's when you start brainstorming with friends. How do I get this out without murdering it? And like cutting it up and taking it out in parts. Or maybe you might need to. I don't know what to tell you. It just depends. Everybody's situation's unique. But often there are people who are willing to help you brainstorm. How can I get rid of this thing? Oh, no. Wow. Just wow. But yes. Okay. So, but if you need help and you've brainstormed with people and you're still not getting anything, let me know. Slide into my messaging and we will brainstorm and figure it out. I am your reference research librarian, available to figure out how to find solutions specifically for your needs. If you need help, let me know. I've certainly done enough for people around here, including my library patrons. We will figure out solutions. It is actually one of the places where being neurodivergent is useful because we see problems differently. And so we'll come up with solutions that people are like, oh, I never thought about that way, but that totally works. Like, hi, yes, welcome to one of the selling points of being neurodivergent. When you've exhausted all the other ideas, get a neurodivergent person to brainstorm with you. You will come up with wild answers. Many of them are doable. Okay. We will be over, and when I say we, I mean me, I will be over the Unicorn Council Discord server after this in the voice chat for the Clubhouse. If anyone would like to join and hang out, I will be playing Don't Starve Together at a certain point. It's like study hall. We all hang out, everybody's in voice chat, people talk, some people don't talk. It's just like study hall. You just hang out, you know? Maybe you want to do something right. Maybe you want to play your own game. I don't know. It's just like study hall. You're just hanging out. It's cool. It's low-key. It's chill. So if you'd like to join us, that'd be great. If you need a link to my Discord server, please let me know, and we will send you an invite link. If you need it now in the chat, like, I don't know what, 2 minutes? We'll keep monitoring the chat. Yes, send me a link now. Otherwise, I would need to know a way to contact you. But anyhow, so that's what we're about to do. Thank you so much for coming. So, well, Glory, though, you haven't told me about next week. Fair. So, February and March, what we are doing is a hybrid compromise between what we'd originally planned for the storytelling stuff between seasons 3 and 4. So, 4 episodes of like long form movies where we analyze them and how it relates to storytelling, i.e. writing. And 4 episodes where we instead focus on short films, all the short films will be available on YouTube to watch for free. So, if you are curious what next Monday's episode will be, I'll suggest that you show up on our Twitch stream this Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 3 a.m. Central European time, or watch the replay anytime in the next 2 weeks to know what we're going to do next Monday, because I have not finalized the schedule. I just know which ones we're going to do. If you have a preference. So here it is, long form, Kevin Smith Part 2. It's hard being a high school girl. We're going to talk about feminist horror films, influence of B-movie sci-fi, the Muppet storytelling style, horror shorts, sci-fi shorts, for kids short films, and romance short films. If you have anything you'd like to put forward, like some people have actually written short stories and like they're available to read or listen to. So people have been sending me links, which will be including in the show description so everybody can enjoy those. If you have any, input, let us know. We'd love to hear from you. It's going to be a really fun next 2 months, y'all. If you'd like to join us on screen, we'd absolutely love to have you. Just let me know.
And by the way, Cherry, yeah, we did see it.
Wow. Holy cow. Something. Just wow. Like, I don't have nice words to say, but yikes. There. Right. Because YouTube is funny about cursing. Anyway, the impression. Anyway. So, for Kevin Smith Part 2, we'll be talking I think it's like 1999 or it's 2000s forward, because that's as far as we got. Was like Kevin Smith, Clerks, all the way up to like 1999, I think.
Yeah, I think we got up to Dogma. I don't think we hit Jay and Silent Bob straight.
I don't think we actually, no, I don't think so. So that's what we're going to talk about. 2000 forward is Kevin Smith films, and we'll see how far we get. As I said, if anyone would like to join us on screen, or would like to, be sure to talk about this or this, or will you be covering this movie or something, please let us know. We'd love to hear from you. And we will be putting more updates in our Discord server under the Awkward Sibling Show. So, as well as the guest recruitment, we will be posting in there. So again, it's important if you want to join us or be influencing on what we're doing, to be involved in our Discord server, Unicorn Council. So with that, thank you so much. Our links are down below, just in case. If you've still made it this far and you haven't subscribed or clicked the like button, but you felt that what we are doing is useful or interesting, or at the very least entertaining for you, we would love it if you'd, stroke that like button, hit the subscribe, ring the bell so that you get notifications when we do stuff. It's awesome. And we will see you next Monday here, same time, same channel. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Hey.